The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Yo, this is Rich Latta here. We are across the street from MSG.
NY, baby. New York City, Madison Square Garden. Hey, y'all boy, come on.
Come on. Man, Jeremy Donovan here from Keepin It Strong Style and Social Suplex. We're here with one half of the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions.
Hey, one half of Gorillas of Destiny, but one whole of Tama motherfucking Tonga. Realest of the realest. Hey, ain't nobody realer than Gorilla.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll be covering all latest news, answering your questions, and doing week 4 of the Final Countdown. You can support our show by subscribing to the Social Suplex Podcast Network and to Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts and columns over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, ProWrestlingTees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWworld.com, with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and shared playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. Visit njpwext.us today for details. Young boy, how you doing, man?
I am sunburned, man. I'm hurt. You know, I'm out here. I was out here in these streets. I found myself an oasis, a nice little public pool, because, you know, Florida don't give a fuck, so they're opening stuff up. And no, but I actually, for the safety of myself and people I was with, we were, you know, in a pretty safe environment. You know, no one else was around, that kind of thing. So it was kind of cool. We had a nice day, but I underestimated what being out of the sun for how long has it been out? 2.5 months? I don't even know.
Yeah,
2 months?
Like 2 months, yeah.
God, I am freaking burned.
Christ.
Yeah, so I'm hurting. I'm tired. I don't really want to do this show today.
Oh, man. Well, if it makes lift your spirits any better, we are the 2020 Social Suplex Fantasy Draft champions.
Oh, that's absolutely right. Yeah, so that was cool. Yeah, Kenny and Brock is a draw.
We are superior bookers.
You know, I'll be honest. We actually are superior bookers. For those of you that don't know what we're talking about, I'm going to need you to go check out the 2-part episode of this year's Social Suplex Draft to kind of get caught up. But it was really fun, right?
Yeah, it was fun. I'm glad we did it again. You know, we did this in 2017, but we never recorded it. We never did any follow-up with the draft we did in 2017. And so now I think we're going to make it an annual tradition and have every show on the network that's available to get involved. It's a fun little show to get us all involved and just seeing the type of cards and rosters that each team drafts.
Yeah, so it was a cool concept. So we had a roster of wrestlers that we were allowed to draft, a certain amount of men, certain amount of women, certain amount of tag teams. And we all drafted them, and then we came up with fantasy cards. So it was a 2-part episode, and you, the listeners, voted. Not many of you, some of you. Don't know what happened there, but, all the majority spoke out, and they said Keepin It Strong Style are the superior bookers. So spoiler alert, we have won, winner circles here. We're used to winning things. we get it. It's not a big deal. But in all honesty, I will say this. Going in as fourth place as the fourth place draft pick was way harder than the previous time we did this where we were number 2. And so I do think that although we did a good job drafting, I think we had, I would say, maybe the second or third best roster list. But as far as the actual booked card, I think we did book the best card, in my humble opinion.
Dude, we had a War Games match in the middle of the card. We had a freaking tag ladder match with Mexa Blood and Lucha Bros. Kenny and Brock,
standing match.
Mysterio and Hiromu in a junior title match.
Yeah, man. It was a great card. And, for those of you that want to see what we're talking about, go check out the episodes. A lot of fun. And, you can kind of go in there with 2020 hindsight, realizing that when you listen to our card, you're listening to a winner's card.
That's right. It's up in the archives on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. If you subscribe to the network, guys, you get all the great shows on this network, plus all the archives. You can literally listen to all 127 episodes of Keeping It Strong Style on
and the bonus episodes.
Yeah, bonus episodes, the award shows, the drafts, One Nation Radio, Get in the Ring, All Things Elite, Grown Men Watch This Shit, everything that we have to offer here on the network. There's interviews on there, our interviews with Rocky Romero, Mike Sempervive, Chris Charlton. Rich has done some interviews with Troy Hollywood and some other people. We've got a lot of great stuff that's in the archives there.
Our annual FOH draft where we all get drunk and say foolish things and then feel bad about it later on.
That's right, our big Christmas special, the FOH draft. I know you guys love that. It's one of the hits here on the network. So, yeah, there's a lot of great stuff. So make sure you're subscribed to the Social Suplex network feed so you're getting all this great stuff that we're putting out on the network, all the crossover episodes we do. It's a lot of great stuff on the network feed.
Nice. Well, let's before we get into the show, man, how you doing? I haven't seen you. What's been going on with you?
Man, just living this quarantine life, just working from home.
I see you're out here with the claw.
That's right. That's been my quarantine drink. I've been sipping on some black cherry White Claw throughout the quarantine, throughout the week,
An episode where I'm drinking water and you're drinking alcohol, but the roles have definitely reversed.
Except that's probably going to be the only one I drink and not get up and get like 5 more.
I do not usually drink 5 drinks on the episode.
I know I'm exaggerating.
It's usually like 3 or 4.
Yeah, I'm doing all right, man. Still working from home. We haven't gotten the word to go back in the office yet. Just been watching random stuff, watching NXT and Dynamite.
Bro, my stimulus check come?
No, it has not come yet. I checked the mail.
Oh my God!
I checked the mail today, and
this kind of shit never happened when Obama was around. Tell you what,
your Trump bucks were not there.
Yeah, Trump's fucking with me.
You got heat with Trump.
Yeah, but no, that's cool. Yo, so before we go, I do want to know something. So the gym's not open. What have you been doing, bro? You've been clanging and banging in the dojo or no?
Yeah, so what I've been doing first, I've been like going on, take 3 or 4 laps around the complex with my dog Kai. That's like out there for like 30, 35 minutes and then come back to the dojo, I'm doing my old high school wrestling. It was a warm up then, but I'm a little out of shape now, so it's a little workout right now.
It's your actual whole workout. Your warm up is your workout.
Yeah, dude. But yeah, back in the day in high school, this used to be our warm up for practice. It was 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and 100 jumping jacks.
You can do 100 push-ups?
Yeah.
Bro, that's
crazy. I do like 25, 25, 25. It's one round, and I do 4 rounds of 25 of each thing.
Oh, it makes sense, yeah.
But yeah, that was our warm-up for the wrestling team. So I'm just trying to get through that as my workout right now, since the gym is closed and I can't pump the iron.
I know, man. It sucks. Like, since that's one of the top breeding grounds for the COVID, for the Rona, I've been doing P90.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, back in the day when I was like the fittest I ever was doing P90X, and I was doing jiu-jitsu and wrestling and training, kickboxing, all that stuff at the same time. But I thought back to it, and I had the opportunity to do P90X, and I was like, it's a little intense for me. I think I'll just do the P and the 90 and leave the X out of it. But I've been doing that. It's been going good. So
I have thought about dusting off the DDP yoga. I still have.
Bro, get the DDP yoga going, bro.
'Cause I still have my disc. I know Josh number 2 in our Largo Loop group. I know he's been doing some DDP yoga. I've been thinking about busting it out, hitting some the diamond cutter stretches and diamond cutter push-ups.
The most fit I saw you was when you were doing what's the shake stuff you do? The Nutrisystem or whatever?
Oh, Herbalife?
Yeah, Herbalife. What were you doing when you were doing Herbalife?
I was just working out at the gym, man. Eating a little bit healthier. But like the best shape I've ever been in was 2014 when I was really doing Herbalife and like doing like boot camps like twice a day. I had like 6-pack abs out here. I was looking like Tony Nese out here.
Oh, okay. One last thing before we go. So the C1 tournament, how's that going?
It's been all right. Also,
the best of the super cruisers.
It's been all right. Empty arena wrestling, it's just really hard. All these matches would be so much better if there was a crowd reaction. But it's some good little tight wrestling. They have some solid workers in there. I've been a big fan of Swerve for a long time now, and he's been doing really well in the tournament. He's 1-on-1 right now on top of, I think he's in the B block, I believe. So he's doing well. They're doing the whole Drake Maverick story where he's released, but he's still in the tournament, and he's fighting for his job. If he wins, he could potentially keep his job. And I think it's an interesting little story there just to kind of blend some real life, what's going and kind of kayfabe it up a little bit.
I mean, what's the deal? Like, did they really fire him? Like, was this a work? Like, I've been hearing lots of people like kind of be positive about it, and then other people be super negative on the whole thing, and I don't really know what to believe. All I know is that I just keep trying to, like turn on the network and decide to watch this, and then I just think like, nah, and I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, Kushida's been doing well. Haven't been really blown away by Phantasma in his 2 outings that he's had. I know I've seen him in Lucha Underground, and as he was King Corno, right? That was his Lucha Underground gimmick. Yeah, and he was awesome on that show. But so far,
so you're saying a luchador came to WWE and had trouble adjusting the style and looking impressive? That's crazy. I've never heard of that happening ever in the history of WWE. That never happens.
Yeah. So honestly, he's just been fine. I feel like all of his opponents have kind of outshined him in the 2 outings he's had. But we'll see what happens. He has one more match left in his block, so we'll see what happens.
Nice. Well, I say let's get into the show because we just got a couple more Final Countdown episodes here before we complete this project.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited, man. But yeah, we'll do some news first. So first thing, I heard that a state of emergency in Japan has been extended to May 31st. So clearly they're tightening up the lockdowns in Japan. So I'm waiting any minute now for there to be an official cancellation of Best of the Super Juniors, and that whole tournament that would have been all of May and leading into June. I'm guessing that I'm pretty sure that whole tournament's going to be canceled or postponed.
I'm hoping postponed. It's very interesting that they haven't gone ahead and made the official word that they're not doing it, which kind of makes me think that, with how quickly they acted on other shows like Dontaku and things of that nature, that they're still holding out some sort of hope to maybe do it. Or at least that's my thought process, because you think by now it's patently obvious that they're not doing it, and they haven't said anything. So maybe there are some plans in place to either postpone or, hold it at a later date. I don't know.
Right, yeah, we'll see what happens there. And maybe they're trying to do an empty arena, Best of Sleeper Junior. And maybe that's why they haven't canceled it, because they're going to do the tournament, but it's going to be empty arena.
I thought about that as being a possibility as well. Although, so far the company, even though they've made some allusions to empty arena wrestling, they haven't really gone ahead and committed to that. They haven't done it throughout this whole process. So we'll see. One thing I did want to bring up, the governor of, or maybe it was the mayor, I think it was the mayor of New York, was stating that they are not anticipating having concerts or mass gatherings of any sort until 2021 in New York, which leads me to think, and this, now granted, this is about 15 days ago when he said this, but if that holds true, then that means that we're definitely not getting Wrestle Dynasty in August.
Right. So, yeah, maybe they'll postpone that. Maybe they'll relocate it to a state that can run it in.
You mean like Tampa Bay?
Yeah, come down to Amalie Arena.
God, I don't know if I still don't know if I'd go.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
I might support them from the dojo
via satellite. Oh man, yeah. Man, what a crazy year 2020 is, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, this year's pretty much a wash at this point, man.
Well, maybe if the good thing is they're talking about hopefully rolling out antibody testing here in the near future, which, there's still a lot of issues with that. But if they, let's say hypothetically, like, I think you and I both know there's a couple times in the early part of this year where I was pretty sick, and like, I'm not saying I had COVID, but who knows? It was around the right time of the year. I don't know. If I were to take, say, a quote-unquote antibody test, because there's so many people that have contracted it and been asymptomatic or minor symptoms, and they never got tested, so they have no way of knowing. If they do roll out reliable antibody testing, we might be able to get people back into the regular rotation of just everyday living, provided we can prove that people have the antibodies to do it, Right. So that's, I know they're working on what's it called? On a vaccine and everything of that nature, but an antibody test might be the next best thing to kind of, get life, rolling for people again.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully, they can get some vaccines going, some antibody tests going, and we can eventually kind of get things back to normal. So next thing here on the list, so this past weekend was the 7-year anniversary of the formation of the Bullet Club.
Well, it's the 9-year anniversary of Suzuki-gun, and the fact that you didn't put that on the docket as part of what's going on, you got heat with Suzuki, not me. I just want everyone to know that I'm not the one who put this on. God.
Okay, I've met Suzuki in New Orleans. We're
Bro, then why are you disrespecting him right now?
Because
and his goon.
No disrespect for the goon, but Bullet Club is, I think, a more of a bigger deal for our audience and the audience in the West, and just the impact that Bullet Club's had literally worldwide. If you look at all the major promotions right now, there is Bullet Club fingerprints all over the place.
Yeah, and there's Suzuki-gun fingerprints all over the place too. Archer, Davey Boy Smith.
That's right. Yeah, AEW, MLW. Yeah.
Shelton Benjamin, Shelton X.
Shelton X Benjamin. Oh my gosh.
But since it is the 7-year anniversary of Bullet Club, and that is always celebrated at Dontaku, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's kind of looking back, on New Japan World. There's the recount that went through the Bullet Club history. There's also a different version of like a Japanese version that they put up on NJPW World and YouTube, kind of going through the history of Bullet Club. And I watched that this weekend. It was just kind of cool, just looking back from the very beginning. Prince Devitt turning on Taguchi, introducing his bouncer Bad Luck Fale, and just the wave that started, and getting your Tamatongas and your Carl Andersons and your Doc Gallows, heck, even your Jeff Jarrett's and Scott D'Amores, all the way, getting your Young Bucks and Kenny and Hangman, Cody, all the way where we are now with Jay White and Taiji Ishimori and all these guys, and just seeing the impact that turn on Taguchi had on the wrestling business, created one of the hottest factions in all of wrestling, hot merch seller, just the population, the popularity of New Japan in the West, largely on Bullet Club and the stuff that Kenny and the Bucks and AJ and all these guys were doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let me ask you this. I saw a tweet earlier this week where, and I won't name any names, but there was a diehard New Japan fan who basically alluded to the idea, why haven't certain former members who went off to start their own certain company not congratulate the Bullet Club for, their anniversary, whilst, a lot of people who have been involved with it, people like Machine Gun Carl Anderson, others, so on and so forth, Prince Devitt, people who've been involved in the past have always kind of thanked them for their support and, being a part of it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it all plays into the same reason why they didn't show Kenny winning the U.S. title on that recount. There's obviously still some heat there between both parties. Both guys still have hurt feelings, so New Japan's not really mentioning the Elite unless they're showing them lose. And, the Elite guys aren't really mentioning their time in New Japan or mentioning Bullet Club. They stopped doing Two Sweets and Suck It's. They've kind of moved on from that, so they're not going to.
Well, they had to do that because Vince.
Yeah, the cease and desist.
They had a cease and desist.
But they're not. Yeah, they've kind of moved on from that whole kind of Bullet Club stuff, and they don't really mention it all.
Those are the signs of an unhealthy and hurting, couple parties. It's like when a boyfriend or girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever. When two people were together at one point, and then everyone kind of knows it was high profile, they break it off, and now they can't ever mention each other. That's you hate to see that. You hate to see that. You hate to see it. You hate to see it. It's better when they're like, they can say nice things about their former partner, and just be cordial, and you would like to see that, but I think Kadani's heart's still broken. I think Matt Jackson's heart's still broken. So
well, clearly his back is still broken.
His back, yeah, he's got to sell it for another 2 years. He's at 13% right now, right?
No. So Nick Jackson's the one that's been doing percents, but Matt did hurt his back in the match versus Nick, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have to sell my back for longer now."
But Bullet Club 7-year anniversary. So a lot of people very excited about that. Diehard Bullet Club fans out there, and we'll see if the best is yet to come, or if we are past the peak, like many people think we are.
Yeah. So we'll see. So yeah, shout out to the Bullet Club 7-year anniversary. We'll see what's down the line for the club in the future.
And on behalf of the young boys, shout out to Minoru Suzuki and the rest of Suzuki Unit. Congratulations on 9 years of dominance and greater relevance than the Bullet Club. And I'm sorry for Jeremy. I don't know what to tell you. He's wearing an LIJ shirt right now, so I don't know.
Forgive me, Suzuki-san. So speaking of LIJ, Tetsuya Naito had a interview column on NJPW1972.com called The Double Champs Downtime. Kind of talking about he's been going through during the quarantine, and essentially this guy is trying to shoot angles, in this interview talking about him and Hiromu wrestling at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, but when is Naito not trying to like work himself into an angle when he's doing interviews?
Always.
Like literally, he always is. So I'm not surprised by that at all.
Yeah. So interesting comments there. Check that out. Also,
that kind of reminds me of like when Shawn won the belt, and then he told Brett all the guys he's gonna work with. He's like, "Well, I'm gonna work Kid, and then Razor, and then Diesel, and then me and Hunter are gonna do something." Naito's out here like, I'm gonna work Hiromu, and then me and Evil got something going. Sonata, Shingo, and then Bushi.
Oh my gosh. Also on NJPW1972.com, there is a autobiography of Hiroshi Tanahashi called Kindergarten of the Century, and it's a life story that's being told in interviews, first time in English, of the autobiography of Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Huh. That's cool.
Then the NJPW English podcast had a watch-along with Gino and Kevin. They watched Kazuchika Okada versus Carl Anderson from the 2012 G1 Climax Final. Interesting match to watch with Mr. Machine Gun on the free agency right now.
I'm not too surprised that they're doing that. You know, it's funny because Super J-Cast also reviewed that exact same match this past week. So those two podcasts kind of stepping on each other's toes. They didn't get the Best of the Super Junior Final Countdown memo. So they need to be wised up, you know.
Smarten up,
yeah.
Lucky boxes are coming to the Token Shop Global. So starting.
Okay, what is a lucky box?
So let me tell you. So starting May 1st, all fans have the chance to buy an online exclusive lucky box. These boxes are a better deal than the lucky bags that are on the website. The lucky boxes are filled with $120 worth of goods, and they're selling them for $30. This is the biggest deal in the global shop right now. Don't miss out on these lucky boxes.
All right, I just want to say this. I want a fucking lucky box.
Well,
I never buy wrestling merch ever. I want a lucky box, and I just want to throw it out there for Jeremy, the Social Suplex Podcast Network, and all the fans listening. My birthday is coming up May 15th. So if we can support my dream to get me $30 so I can have a lucky box, that would mean a lot to me.
Yeah, if you want to buy the Young Boy a lucky box, you can send me a DM. I'll send you the address of the dojo. Or if you want to donate to our Red Circle at the $30, I'll make sure that goes to getting Young Boy a lucky box.
Bro, I will open that with a tear in my eye.
We'll do a YouTube reveal of you opening the lucky box.
Bro, you're gonna give. Here's the thing, like. At first, I was like, you're going to give the listeners our home address. But then I thought, fuck it. We're real shooters. We're real about this shit. We don't care.
I mean, we invited a listener into this dojo that we didn't even...
Come to the fucking dojo. See what happens.
Reddit user, why did you do that, bro, who won one of our contests. We had no idea what this guy looked like. If it was actually a guy, could have been a murderer, but... We welcomed him into our dojo. He listened to the show. He won the contest.
That was my idea, and Jeremy's like, I don't know. And I was like, bro, it'll be fine.
But yeah, that was pretty cool. So yeah, so we'll have to check out these lucky boxes here on the global shop. On YouTube right now in NJPW World, we have Rocky Romero's Pro Wrestling English lesson number 1. Did you happen to see this?
I saw it, but I didn't know what it was. And I was like, I already speak English, so I did not click on it.
Yeah, so lesson number 1 was going over the "This is awesome" chant. And Rocky kind of explaining the importance and the excitement behind "This is awesome" and how you can use that during wrestling events and even in your everyday life. So,
is it like it's a comedy skit?
Kind of. I mean... He's talking about this is awesome and when to do it during shows and when not
to do it.
No, he did not talk about when not to do it.
Oh, okay, gotcha. They need to do that video. When not to do wrestling chants. As here's one thing I will say about you and I. Like, we're not prideful people. Very, very, humble. But one thing I pride myself on being is a good chant starter.
Oh, yes.
We start chants that get over, that catch on at the appropriate time. And I see these jokers coming out here in the middle of some mid-ass, 3-star match, on a Tuesday at Minreg, being like, this is awesome. And like, it makes me mad. And then when it does get over, but it's not actually awesome, it makes it worse because it's an embarrassment to the performers, it's an embarrassment to the crowd, and it makes me just not want to be there.
Yeah, I mean, whether it is a Tampa Bay Pro show with 50 people or a Dynamite taping with 5,000 people, we get chants over, and we get the whole building rocking.
Yeah.
So
except for that time when I was like killing myself for Darby Allin against Cody, and people don't really know Darby like that yet.
Oh, for Fighter Fest.
At Fighter Fest. Yeah, we were going hard for Darby.
Yeah.
That shit didn't get over at all.
I think it was a sound of that building, because I've watched that match back on tape, and the Let's Go Darby chants were audible.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. There's another column up on NJPW1972.com. Fans bring the questions match with Kazuchika Okada. This is the first of 3 parts where fans have submitted questions, and Okada is answering them via text through this column format on the NJPW website.
Well, other companies are doing matches that aren't actually matches, so why not New Japan?
Right. This is a lot safer. And last thing here, the free match of the week is Sho versus Shingo Takagi from the Best of the Super Juniors. Wow, what a banger that was.
Yeah, one of my favorite Super Junior matches of the tournament last year, when we did our countdown of the top 10 matches of the year anywhere in the world last year, or even just our top 10 in New Japan. I can't remember. We did that for One Nation Radio, and I think Sho and Shingo was still on my list. I think it was a match that was heralded as really great when it happened, and then it was at the beginning of a fantastic tournament, and it almost kind of got forgotten about by the end of it because there's so many great matches. But like, to me, Sho Shingo was like a G1 level match that occurred in the Best of the Super Juniors, both in quality and in style. So I really, really, really like that match, and I recommend it to the highest degree. If you're not doing anything this week, you should check this out, especially since it's free.
Yeah, and I mean, this was one of those matches where there was some build to it, because there was a whole rivalry with Shingo and Sho leading into this match, and through the tag team feud were Roppongi 3K and Bushi and Shingo, and Sho just trying to get the best of Shingo, and he couldn't, and all that built to this match. So it was kind of one of the few tournament matches that kind of actually had some long-term build going into it.
Dude, they've been building that match since Shingo entered the company in August of the previous year?
Yeah.
Something like that. So yeah, I mean, it had a very long-term build, and it was a highly emotional match. So yeah, I loved it.
Nice. Well, now let's dive into the mailbag here. Got a lot of questions to answer. First, from Reddit user Highest Fly Flow. He says, what did you guys think of the Dontaku Tele Pro Wrestling thing New Japan uploaded? Personally, it felt much more geared to the Japanese fans, and I ended up watching the matches in original form.
I did not watch this because it was in Japanese, and I don't speak Japanese, so I didn't watch. See, it works both ways. If they put something out in English, I already speak English, so I don't watch it. And then if they put it out in Japanese, I don't speak Japanese, so then I also don't watch it. So both ways.
I'm just like Highest Fly Flow. I kind of started watching it, and the problem is the audio for the matches are low, and you're hearing. So essentially, these guys are on a Zoom call pretty much, and they're watching a match. You're hearing like Milano and Taichi very audibly. You're not really hearing the match, and so for me, I'm like, I really don't. Like, I'm not really. It's hard to kind of get into.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure any foreign language watch along is like that. This is probably really great content if you speak Japanese. just like some of the watch-along stuff that they've done in English probably doesn't appeal to the Japanese audience. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
no, I haven't watched it. I don't even know what matches from Dontaku they even, did follow-alongs for or anything like that.
Yeah, the first one, because I clicked out of it pretty early. It was Taguchi and Milano against Taguchi and somebody. It might have been Taguchi and Devitt or somebody like that.
You said Taguchi and Milano against Taguchi and Devitt?
Taichi and Milano.
Oh, I was gonna say that's crazy. It's like Undertaker versus Undertaker.
Right. He also asked, he says, also, Jeremy, did you watch Sasaki versus Kobashi yet? We need a review from the pro black guy. I have not watched that match yet, but I'm going to find it this week.
Bro, just watched it this week.
Yeah, I'm going to find it because I've loaded up some stuff in the queue that I want to watch. Been looking over, what could be match of the year, before we know it, the year is going to be over, and also there's not that much stuff out there. So I've been trying to catch up on some matches from across the world I haven't seen, so I have a list. But I will add this Kobashi match on there and get that watched.
What's exciting to me is if the year ends right now, I'm pretty sure that Nakanishi retirement match is going to be in our top 10 matches of the year. And that's pretty exciting for me.
Oh my gosh.
Because that match is great.
His last question here, can you talk about the Koji Kayato John Tenta match in which Kayato stopped selling and eventually started telling the crowd wrestling was fake? Did he get beat up backstage?
Okay, so he is talking about Koji Kitao versus John Tenta from Super World of Sport. So Koji Kitao, very infamous and notable figure in the history of Pro Resu. Yeah, he's just a very, very, very controversial character. So I guess quick backstory. So Koji Kitao started as a sumo wrestler, and he actually ascended. Excuse me. He ascended to the rank of Yokozuna, which is the highest. I don't know that much about sumo, but apparently it's like the highest rank that you. It's like your grand champion type level. You compete at the highest level, and he's notable for being like one of the only Yokozunas to never have won say a tournament ever in history, which means that's not good. And there was some sort of issue between him and his trainer, and he got into an altercation with his trainer and his trainer's wife, and threw them both down or something. And so he got expelled from the sumo world very quickly. And then he was working New Japan after that, and in the late 80s. And he was he had some racial issues because he said some stuff about Riki Choshu being Korean, and he was racist, I guess, against him and stuff like that, and then just kind of disrespectful to a lot of the boys. And so they didn't really tolerate that, and he kind of got kicked out. So come early 1990, 91, he goes to go work for SWS, which was the number 3 company at the time. And Tenryu was supposed to be the number 1 domestic star, and they kind of brought in Koji Kitao to be the number 2 star in the company, because even though he had a relatively short period of wrestling, he's a former Yokozuna, which is it's like bringing in a former top level boxer, MMA star to wrestling. He was well known, and
bringing in Cain Velasquez.
Something yeah, exactly. And you draw a huge house in Saudi Arabia. It's exactly the same thing. So, anyways, I don't know exactly what the deal is, but Koji Kitao and John Tenta, they wrestled on one of the first early SWS shows, and John Tenta, you guys might know him better as Earthquake. He also is a former sumo wrestler, a very, very successful one as well. He did not get to the same level of rank, but he did a year or two of sumo before his pro wrestling career. And he actually beat Koji Kitao in their first match. So that kind of set, and he was the baby face. The crowd cheered him over Kitao. So they set up the second match, and this is one of the weirdest quote unquote shoot matches in history. It's when a work devolves into a shoot, and Koji Kitao is just not selling anything John Tenta throws at him. Completely being uncooperative, And then at one point they like start like really getting into it. The referee's like trying to intervene, and Koji Kitao like starts like trying to put his thumb in John Tenta's eye, and John Tenta's like slobbering and screaming. I was like, "This is pro wrestling!" And then like Kitao just like loses his shit. He goes out of the ring. He like takes like a table and throws it at the ring and shit. And then he gets on the mic and he's like, "Pro wrestling is fake."
Wow.
And then like Earthquakes like gets his hand raised. That's pretty much the whole thing. I mean, it's a very infamous thing that happened. Ultimately, the only thing I do know for a fact is Great Kabuki was like the head booker of SWS. And apparently they found out through an investigation that he tried to goad Koji Kitao into doing something like this. And he actually told John Tenta to do something in the match to like elicit this type of reaction. I never have seen what John Tenta did to deserve this reaction from Koji, but they fired Great Kabuki for this incident. So, last funny fact: Koji Kitao ended up going to UWFI years later after training in martial arts and getting a black belt in karate. And he was supposed to like have a super dream fight with Takada, and they like agreed to fight to a draw. And Takada was like, "Nah, I'm gonna double cross his ass." And Takada high kicked the shit out of him early on in the match and knocked him the fuck out. I mean, completely out. It's like one of the craziest knockouts ever, and it's a shoot. And they like put it in all their video packages for like years until the company went out of business.
Oh my gosh! Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So there's that story.
Next question here from Reddit user Grunty Dodds. How did Fale get the bad luck part of his name? A bad weekend in Vegas? Based on who he's dating, he should be called luckiest SOB in the world, Fale.
I haven't really seen. Did Bad Luck Fale ever have a different name?
Yeah, so he was originally King Fale before
That's right.
joining the Bullet Club, and then once Devitt turned onto Gucci, and that was the first time they announced him as Bad Luck Fale, I believe.
Okay, I do remember him being King Fale. I never like realized when his name changed though. Huh. Yeah. Well, that's too bad because I was gonna make a joke about like Babatunde being Good Luck Fale. But no, that's pretty funny. Yeah. No, he never was anything other than he was Bad Luck Fale, and then he was King Fale before that. So yeah.
Yeah, so Devitt called him that. I don't know if that was Devitt's idea or they came up with that in the back somehow. I don't know where it came from, but
I think it's because when he fucks people up, he goes, "Sorry for your bad luck." I don't know. I just made that up. I don't know.
Next question's here from Muzza Murray Bone. His first question: who do you prefer, Keiji Muto or the Great Muta?
I like Keiji Muto. I like the Great Muta, obviously. Everyone likes the Great Muta. But, like, when I think about, like, some of the classic, like, IWGP title runs and classic, like, G1 runs and stuff like that, I think of, like, Keiji Muto. And, I like Keiji Muto. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I personally haven't seen much Keiji Muto matches. I'm more familiar with, his alter personality, the Great Muta. So I'm going to have to go with Muta for now.
Okay. Now, this is a great question from Murray Bone. He said, wow, only a few people have done this accomplishment of winning the IWGP, the Triple Crown, and the GHC heavyweight title in their career. Has anyone ever done the junior equivalent of this? Meaning, has anyone ever won the top junior title in all three companies? And then he said, I know Kanemaru has done it once. Jeremy, this man just said, I know Kanemaru has done it once.
Oh, my gosh.
What Kanemaru do you know that has ever won the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title?
I do not know a Kanemaru who has won the IWGP Junior title. I know a Kanemaru who's won the Junior Tag titles, but not the IWGP single Junior Heavyweight title.
Yeah, man. I don't know what this guy's talking about. Now, do you know the answer? Because there's only been one person in history who's ever done this.
That would be Marufuji.
Now Michi Marufuji. So Murray, there's your answer. I do wonder. At first, I was wondering. I was like, do you think anyone has ever done it with the earlier versions? Because before they had the World Junior Heavyweight title in All Japan, they used to have the NWA International Junior title. And that was like their top junior belt, and then in New Japan, it was the WWF Junior Heavyweight title. And I was like, man, I wonder if someone's ever won both of those. And then I remembered, like, oh, Noah didn't exist until 2000. So, yeah, I don't think anyone ever did it with those belts. So, yeah, it's just Marufuji.
Next question from Rich Latta. He says, Jeff Jarrett is the what number greatest member of the Bullet Club?
Well, I wish we had some music right now so we could play, let's play a game. What? Yeah. So, I have all the members of the Bullet Club here. There have been around 30. We can go through them very quickly, and we can say who's greater, right?
What number greatest? So in that list of 30, what number would he be?
So let's set some parameters here, because overall, truth be told, Jeff Jarrett's a Hall of Famer, and for many different regards. But let's talk about how great of a member he was in the faction.
Right.
That will be the criteria here.
Because he never even had a match, right?
I think he might have. I think he might have had a multi-man match with them or something like that.
Okay.
I know he seconded them on a few occasions, because he was quote unquote technically with them from August 10th, 2014 until January 4th, 2015. So let's go through the list here, and you tell me who you think is greater, just real quick.
Okay.
Adam Cole or Jeff Jarrett?
Adam Cole, baby.
AJ Styles or Jeff Jarrett?
AJ Styles.
This is all alphabetical. Jeff Jarrett or Amber Gallows?
I think I'm gonna have to go with the Bullet Club Babe.
Okay, Bone Soldier, the original Bone Soldier, or Jeff Jarrett?
You know what? I'll give Jarrett this one.
Okay, Brandy Rhodes or Jeff Jarrett?
Oh, Brandy.
Okay, Cody Hall. I don't know. He was with them for a pretty long time. I'd have to say Cody Hall.
Yeah, I'll go Cody Hall.
Doc Gallows.
Go with the Doc.
Okay, here's an easy one. El Terrible.
El Terrible?
Yep.
Terrible was part of the Bullet Club?
There was Bullet Club Latino America. From 2013, for 6 or 7 months in 2013.
All right, well, I'm going Jarrett on that one then.
Okay, Frankie Kazarian or Jeff Jarrett?
Well, Kazarian, wasn't his whole thing a work to...
He was in there for a month.
So, yeah, I'll go...
And it was a work.
Yeah, let's get Daniel's heat on them. So I'll go Jarrett.
Okay, Hangman Adam Page.
Hangman.
Carl Anderson. Kenny Omega.
I'll see Omega.
La Comandante.
Gonna go Jarrett on that one.
Mephisto.
Gonna go Jarrett on that one.
Marty Scurll. Nick and Matt, the Young Bucks. Prince Devitt. Ray Bucanero.
Gonna go Jarrett on that one.
Robbie Eagles. Stephen Amell.
I'll go Jarrett on that one.
Scott D'Amore.
I'll go Jarrett on that one.
And you know what? I'm going to put Jarrett over the Bullet Club Babe. So that means that means you got nine members there that are former members that he is lower than. No, there's 9 that he's higher than.
Right.
Total. And then let's just talk about the current members. Yujiro. Tangaloa.
Yeah, pretty much all the current members I would.
Hikuleo.
Yeah, I'll take Hikuleo over him.
All right, so let's do the math here. So we got 12 current members, so 36 total members, including Jarrett. So he's like the 26th best member of the Bullet Club.
Rich also asks, is Jeff Jarrett the only man to be in both the NWO and Bullet Club? LOL.
Yeah, he is the only person to ever be. They did briefly offer a spot to Scott Norton in the midst of a match during New Year's Dash after the Tokyo Dome show when it was Team 2000 versus Bullet Club, but Scott Norton did not take them up on the offer. But yeah, Jeff Jarrett was a member of. Now think about this: Jeff Jarrett, his connection to the Bullet Club was through Global Force Wrestling, a company that like basically didn't even exist.
Right. They promoted the Wrestle Kingdom 9 pay-per-view. I mean, that was pretty much the extent of their partnership right there.
And then he also, like, working all those people out of their money for those travel packages that were super overpriced.
Right. And then there were those tapings they did, and I believe like Carl Anderson worked them, and there were some New Japan guys that worked those like tapings that like never made air.
And then his connection to the NWO is that he was a member of NWO 2000.
Right.
So like his like affiliation with both groups is like very shaky at best. And keep in mind, so the only people that we said that he was a better member than was like Scott D'Amore, Amber Gallows, and
the Lucha
Bone
Wars.
Soldier, and like all of the Latino guys, and that's it. Anyone else who was like any sort of like actual member, we've ranked higher than him.
Oh man. Next question from Maserati. He says, how long until Yujiro betrays Bullet Club and reforms No Limit so Naito can have 3 belts?
Yeah, it's never gonna happen.
I mean, if Naito really wanted a tag belt, why wouldn't he just team with, the superior guys that are in his faction over Yujiro?
Naito's lucky he's got 2 belts right now.
That's true. Next question from Diego Imahara. I'm sure I'm butchered your last name, Diego. But he says, why does Stardust Naito use almost the same moves as Tanahashi and Muto?
Does he? I don't know.
I have not seen much of Stardust Naito, so I can't say. But I'm assuming that if he was using a lot of Tanahashi and Muto moves, obviously those guys were aces and top guys of the promotion, and he was trying to work to that level. So maybe using some of their moves, he was trying to, get the rub that way. I don't know.
Well, okay, I'll say this. The history of Tetsuya Naito as being the Stardust genius, there was always that idea that he was like the next level and the future of the company beyond Tanahashi. Or at least that's what they thought back then when he was up and coming. Tanahashi was trained by Keiji Muto and emulated his style in many different ways. And I do know for a fact that a lot of like Naito's offense and even just his character, many of his like statements and a lot of his persona was based off the Tanahashi character. It's a large reason why the Stardust Genius was ultimately rejected by the fans. It was because he was too similar to the ace that had preceded him. So that might be a brief answer. I don't know if he intentionally. I know he wasn't trained by Muto. He was trained by Animal Hamaguchi. I don't know if like it was ever like stated that he was trying to do similar moves to them. And I don't even know how far that really extends, to be honest. Like I've watched both guys extensively and I've never been like, oh, he's doing a bunch of Shining Wizards and doing a bunch of
sling blades,
dragon screws. And, I think that there are similarities for sure, but yeah.
All right. Moving on to Josh number 2. He says, Who so far has underdelivered the most when you expected the matches to be 5 stars? Is
he talking about the project that we're doing, or is he talking about like in New Japan history? I mean,
I'm not sure. When I read it, I thought he was just talking about in like New Japan history, but he could be talking about the project as well.
well, luckily I am friends with Josh, so I can just message him and ask him what he meant here. Why don't we move on to the next question before we answer this?
Let's answer both versions.
Because I don't have a good answer prepared for either version. What? So how? Okay, how do you want to do that?
All right, so let's talk about the Final Countdown first, then, since that's we have all those matches here. So,
okay.
So out of everything we've watched so far, has there been a match where you were like, "Oh, these two guys are in it. This should be a banger," and it wasn't?
Yeah, I thought the Pegasus Kid El Samurai match could have been better, and it wasn't. I also thought that the Otani Pegasus, actually, that might be one of the biggest disappointments for me was Wild Pegasus and Shinjiro Otani in '95. That really disappointed me. And then more recently from this tournament, I mean, we'll get into it, but the Tiger Mask matches just don't click for me, like hardly at all. I think Tiger Mask for the period, for all the hype about him being like the best junior of the era, like I think he kind of, granted I've only seen a limited amount of his work from that time period, but I think he kind of sucks.
Yeah, for me, I think overall, I think the Koji Kanemoto and Tiger Mask match.
We'll get into it here.
Yeah, we'll get into it later. It might be one of the ones where I was like, oh, okay, my dog Koji Kanemoto in the finals again. And yeah, that was not what I was expecting. And I would agree with you also with the Pegasus Kid El Samurai from week 1. I'm like, it's Benoit El Samurai. Like, I expect maybe not 5 stars, but maybe 4.5. And it wasn't quite that. So now,
as far as like just in general, I don't know.
Well, I'm trying to think back to all. It's hard thinking back to all the matches that we've watched over the years. So, I mean, this is going to be kind of recency bias, but I mean, the thing that comes top of my mind is Naito and Kenta.
Yeah, that was disappointing. I thought that was going to be a lot better than it ended up being.
Like, I wasn't expecting 5. Again, I wasn't expecting 5 stars, but I was expecting that to be a higher level IWGP title match.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I think he must have been talking, because when he says who so far has delivered the most.
Yeah, I guess maybe he was talking about the project.
I think he must be talking about the project, because I'm like, who so far has under-delivered the most when he expected the matches to be 5 stars? I'm like, unless he's just talking about the year. I guess if we're talking about the year, I mean, that would be the one big match that really under-delivered for me was Naito and Kenta.
Yeah. So moving on next to Kyle Martin, who has a series of questions here. So his first
and we'll spend time, but we gotta go through them quickly so we can get to the meat of the Final Countdown.
Yeah. So his first question: how did the both of you get introduced to New Japan, and when did both of you begin investing or watching regularly? Either of you recall any matches or storylines that made you want to see more?
Well, I guess for me, just very briefly, most of my exposure to Puro comes from, the early days of the internet, stuff I'd seen on tape because of my brother's, love for pro wrestling. But, a lot of it was brought on from seeing like Japanese death matches. And really the introduction was the 94 Super Junior tournament. I mean, that was the kind of the gateway for, I think, most people in the States. And it definitely was for me. As far as like regularly watching it, I mean, keep in mind, until New Japan World existed, it was very hard to be like a regular watcher. You just, in the early days, people were tape traders. I was never really a tape trader. So it wasn't until like the internet came around and I could find stuff on websites, and I would go and watch whatever I could find on the websites that I knew was out there. But, we're living in a great time now where over the past 5, 6, 7 years, it's been relatively easy to find a lot of this stuff, whether it be on New Japan World or streaming sites, things of that nature.
Yeah. For me, first started recognizing obviously Japanese talent in WCW, growing up watching wrestling that way, and then I watch a lot of TNA and Ring of Honor. You see a lot of the Japanese guys come from there, and you would hear the name New Japan Pro Wrestling, but it really didn't really stick with me throughout all that. It wasn't until Wrestle Kingdom 9, the show we talked about that Jeff Jarrett and Global Force produced. They had all these videos with AJ Styles, who I was very familiar with his TNA run, and Jim Ross, and it's like, obviously I'm familiar with Jarrett. Seemed like a really big deal. I was like, I need to check the show out. Watched it. I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then from there, I kind of started just watching Wrestle Kingdoms, and then Wrestle Kingdom 10 was awesome. It's like, all right, maybe I need to start checking out more of this, not just Wrestle Kingdoms. And from there, you start watching big matches, and then obviously with the start of Keeping It Strong Style in November of 2017, that's when I was full go watching every single show, every Road to pay-per-view, Lionsgate, everything. So,
yeah. His next question, were either of you watching TNA between 06, 09? Do you guys know anything about New Japan TNA's partnership? And have you seen how it was on New Japan's end? I liked their Global Impact specials, but it felt a little one-sided in TNA's favor.
Yeah, so I was watching TNA during that time period, and I mean, from what I can understand, it was kind of like the partnership that they have with Ring of Honor right now. They were their American partner. They sent over their young lions there for excursion, and like you mentioned, yeah, it was a little bit one-sided on TNA's side. A lot of their young lions weren't really treated well as far as push-wise or TV time or dates, or they were kind of given bad gimmicks, awkward gimmicks, and it just wasn't really a big help for a lot of the guys they sent over there.
Yeah. I watched TNA around that time period. That pretty much to me seems like probably their prime, right?
Yeah.
The pre-Hogan era, like 06 to 09.
Yeah, the Spike TV era.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I wasn't like invested. Like, I wasn't like watching. Like I mentioned, at that time, being able to watch New Japan was not an easy task just for the general population. But I mean, you would find tapes or you would find stuff on the internet. I don't think it was completely one-sided. I think from a business perspective, it might have been a little bit one-sided. I agree with you on that, Jeremy. But as far as like Kyle's assertion that it was one-sided when it comes to like the presentation of the matches, I don't think that's true. I just think that when you watch the Global Impacts, they pretty much just showed the matches where their guys won. If you watch like the full like Tokyo Dome cards and stuff, like, their guys lost. I mean, Nakamura beat Kurt Angle's ass and took that belt.
Right. When it was like big star versus big star, like there are New Japan guys that would go over, but when they would bring in, obviously, and I think one of the main things that kind of soured the relationship was just the treatment of Okada. And
the way they treated Okada is what fucked up the entire relationship. That's how much Okada meant to the company at that point in time.
Yeah, they gave him, this Okato gimmick, and he was Samoa Joe's sidekick, and it was like the Green Hornet kind of gimmick, and yeah.
Dude, like to this day they won't work with Impact, and it's not even owned or ran by the same people that were there at the time. Like completely different people, and they're like, "Oh, y'all was TNA? Nah, fuck y'all."
Right, run by Don Callis, somebody they know who they had a relationship with, who's been on there.
It's their boy.
Yeah,
it's their boy running it, and they're like, "Nah, fuck that. We ain't fuck with that. We ain't fuck with no TNA."
Oh man. So his next question: do either of you have a favorite all-time tournament or a favorite year in specific for any tournament, start to finish?
The G1, not last year's G1, but the G1 before.
So
it's probably
2018.
Probably the best. Yeah, I think that's probably the best G1 of all time.
Yeah. So for me, favorite tournaments. Yeah, G1 2018 was incredible, and also last year's Best of Super Junior tournament from start to end, I really enjoyed, and obviously there's several stories in there with with Shingo dominating, Ospreay coming back, the whole Ospreay ELP Eagles situation, Shingo show. There were so many little mini stories and rivalries and great matches all throughout that tournament. I really enjoyed it. Also, and then the grand finale of Shingo and Ospreay.
Yeah, the tournament that I'm mentioning, the 2018 one, the A block was kind of sorry, but that B block was like an all-time, like, oh my god, because you had Kenny, you had Naito, you had Ishii, you had Ibushi, you had Zack Sabre. Like, it was so crazy.
That was the danger block.
That block was crazy. So yeah.
Next question. We're now 1 year removed from G1 Supercard. How do you guys feel about Jay White being a former IWGP champion? Do we think his reign helped him, hindered him, or kayfabe tarnished the world title's lineage?
He was a transitional champion through the first quarter of a year. I think he was fine. I think it was a good first title run for him to kind of establish him as being like one of the top 4 guys in the company. I think the reign helped him a lot, and I think it helped the company as well in the middle of a time when they were losing their top guys to AEW.
Yeah, I think it definitely elevated his stock. It helped create a new star. I think the title reign helped him. I don't think it tarnished the lineage of the IWGP title whatsoever.
And it was the payoff to the year-long story that had been going on between Okada and Jay White.
Right. So, yeah.
So yeah, I think some of that was overblown at the time. I thought it was great.
Yeah. His next question: should all wrestling promotions allow fans to make honest, unbiased historical lists for them? Call me cynical, but I feel like lists made by quote-unquote the companies are either some hot take propaganda or just skewed by revisionists. See every WWE documentary as ever as my example.
Yes and no, because I mean, if you're a company, you've got to control your own content, obviously. So I mean, that's just that's the nature of the beast. I agree with you. I mean, you go on like the network and you try to watch something that they produced that's like a best of list, and it's like, oh god, you know what though? I will say this. I don't know why, but WWE.com, whoever used to make the like top matches of the year for WWE.com was always way more accurate than anything else that WWE like for content was putting out. I don't know why.
Right, because I don't know if I think the .com team were kind of on their own little island in the office. Like, I don't think like Vince wasn't really checking like what was going on .com. Like, as long as content's up there and the web views are up, like do whatever you guys want, and like they would be some cool lists that they would put together.
Yeah, because they'd be doing like Slammy Awards and Match of the Year awards and stuff like on TV that was like completely bullshit. And then you'd go online and look at like what the WWE.com like group said, and it's like totally opposite.
All right, it was more legit to what it actually should have been.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're New Japan Pro Wrestling, for instance, and you're talking about like, best matches of all time or something, and it's like a bunch of Kenny Omega matches. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I want the fans making that list for me. So, the first part of it was wrestling, but the second part was promotion, and the company's got to promote themselves and their best interests. I mean, there's a reason why there are fan lists that are out there where people like you and I and, podcasts like this can come out here and talk about what we want to talk about, without, for instance, if this show, hypothetically, let's say New Japan called us up tomorrow and said, we're going to pay you money to do the show, we would do it, but it wouldn't be the same show. Like we'd be out here like some Ryan Satin bitches, like, like that's the deal. Like if you know what I'm saying? Like, so no, they would never like, companies should not let the fans run the shit. Like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, totally agree with you. And his last question: who would you guys consider as the most successful black wrestler in New Japan history? I'm just asking because One Nation Radio brought up how hard it was for black people to get over in Japan. I don't understand why or know anything about the culture, but it just got me curious since I've only seen Ricochet, ACH, and Cheeseburger.
It's got to be Bob Sapp, right?
I would think, yeah.
I mean, Bob Sapp is the most successful and important sports icon in Japan who's black that I can think of, not just in wrestling, but just in general, as an entertainer, as a wrestler, as a MMA fighter, as a kickboxer. Like, he's that guy, or at least he was at one point. He was a pretty terrible pro wrestler, but he was extreme. I mean, he's the only black IWGP champion, so I mean that says something for you. He's also the only Gaijin, I think, that's ever won the Tokyo Sports, MVP award, and so I mean that's a pretty big deal. It tells you a lot there. But I mean, there's two ways to think about it. It's like, on the one end, I could come out here and be like, I can name you a bunch of black wrestlers that have had success in New Japan, but there's always like room for more cultural diversity. You also have to keep into context that there's not a lot of black people in Japan.
Right.
There just really isn't. Like, Japan's not that diverse a place because everyone speaks Japanese, and it's not like in other countries where, for instance, like America, like English is a much more like international language that many other countries speak, but like Japanese is Japanese because people speak that in Japan. So I mean, they've had a lot of successful black wrestlers. I don't know if they've ever had someone that they really, really pushed or got behind like Bob Sapp.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things in wrestling. I mean, you look at the indie scene and you kind of look at who gets pushed and just the layout of promotions, and there's a lot of, dominantly white wrestlers and promotions out there. So it kind of translates to the guys who are, you take that percentage of people who are traveling to Japan, obviously not that many black wrestlers are going over there. So it's kind of one of those weird things.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the early different style fights that Inoki did were like Willie Williams, guys like that. There's a couple other ones that I can't think of their name. Eddie Everett is another one. Obviously Ali. So, he kind of like fought a lot of like black fighters. Some of the MMA guys that were black, Kevin Randleman. I know Ernesto Hoost. I don't know if they all fought in New Japan. Obviously, that's kind of the funny thing, though, is when MMA was a big deal, and so was like K1. There's when it's a real sport, obviously a lot of like black athletes are going to excel at it, and not just black athletes, like a lot of diverse, athletes, just because that's the nature of it. It's an actual contest that has a lot of different people who are involved in it. Whereas with pro wrestling, there might not be as many like diverse people that are actually involved or pushed that are involved with it. You know what I mean? So that is the one interesting thing, is like when you talk about shoot sports that have been over there, like in Pancrase and Pride and all that, there's a lot of stars that were black. And then you look at like the pro wrestling companies, and yeah, it's not as much. And maybe there is a level of, I mean, I can't say for sure because I've never worked there. And it's just tough because we don't speak the language, so we don't know all the culture and everything like that. But is it possible that there has been some level of like prejudice? Like, probably, just like the rest of like pro wrestling history.
Right.
like it's probably, but I don't know for a fact.
Yeah. Well, that wraps up all the questions for this week. Thank you guys for submitting your questions for the show. And now it's time to move into week 4 of the Final Countdown. So to recap from week 3, we covered Best of Super Junior finals from 1999 to 2003. So in 99, we talked about Kendo Kashin defeating Koji Kanemoto, Takaiwa defeating Shinjiro Otani, Jushin Thunder Liger defeating Minoru Tanaka, In 2002, Koji Kanemoto defeating Minoru Tanaka. And then in 03, we had Kakihara defeating Koji Kanemoto, which now brings us to 2004. And so we're actually going to start here with Best of the American Super Juniors.
Oh, shit. We hit him with that bonus.
Best of the American Super Juniors Final 2004. And so this tournament happened April 16th, 2004. And this was the Inoki Dojo presenting the first ever American Best of Super Junior tournament in Santa Monica, California. And the winner of the tournament would go to Japan and compete in the 2004 Best of the Super Juniors tournament in Japan. And while this event was filmed by the Inoki Dojo, most people only saw it after a local tape dealer filmed the event and sold the event on DVD on their website. A fan cam version of the event is a lot of the only ways people would be able to see it in the future, and no official video release of the event came out. So the match, the final match here, well, actually, let's talk about the people in the tournament first. So you want to go ahead and list those participants?
Yeah, so it's a who's who of, the top American indie-style workers of the time. And keep in mind, the idea of this tournament was to find the best American Super Juniors. They had to literally be of American descent, or, in Western or whatever. So you had the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, Sean X-Pac Waltman, Chad Collier, Bobby Quance, Rocky Romero, Iceman Webster Dauphini, Ricky Reyes, and Teddy Hart. And this was, like Jeremy mentioned, promoted by the Inoki Dojo, which was New Japan's dojo that they had. A lot of people only know now of the LA dojo that exists at this current time, but back in the early 2000s, they had one in LA that was also, their dojo that was run by Antonio Inoki. So
right, and if you go back in the archive and listen to our interview with Rocky Romero for the 100th episode of Keeping It Strong Style, we kind of talked about his time in the Inoki Dojo and kind of differences between the Inoki Dojo and the LA Dojo now. So speaking of Rocky Romero, he made his way to the finals of this tournament to go against American Dragon Bryan Danielson. And like I mentioned, this match that we watched on YouTube is fan cam recorded on somebody's handheld camera, so not the best quality video or audio. And the link to that match, it will be in the show description. Also, there's a Google Doc that I have with all the links to all the matches that we've been watching, so check that out.
I don't know what you're talking about when you mentioned the audio not being good, because those fans that were recording this, their audio is fantastic. all the little snide comments and stuff, it's great.
So the final match here, American Dragon Bryan Danielson versus Rocky Romero. Winner goes to Japan. So what was your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, so, when you talk about Inokiism, there's probably no place where Inokiism was more rampant than Inoki's personal dojo in America. Anytime you've talked, I've read interviews and reports over the years of the guys that spent time there, and it's a who's who of big names in the wrestling industry. And amongst them were these two top finalists, Bryan Danielson and Rocky Romero. And like you mentioned, when we interviewed Rocky, he talks about how when they would go to train, they were oftentimes working like MMA fighters,
Right.
and basically having shoots and stuff like that. And that became very, very evident because while many of the heavyweight style fights in New Japan in this era were heavily influenced by Inokiism and very much like shoot style, we've only seen little hints of it in these Super Junior matches. I wouldn't say that any of the matches we've watched so far really delved completely into shoot. You know what I mean? The Kakihara and Kanemoto match is probably the closest thing. But then when you watch this match, it's a whole different beast altogether. You're talking two guys that are actually grappling basically amateur catch wrestling, and then they are throwing fucking hard kicks and hard knees and hard elbows at each other. Not just working. I mean, this is way beyond work, which is funny because if you watch a lot of early ROH or early indie wrestling from the 2000s, there's a bunch of guys that used to do that stuff, Low Key, Samoa Joe, Roderick Strong. And it's kind of one of those trends that I think probably for the better has kind of dissipated because it's not so popularized anymore. Mm-hmm. But back then, these guys would kick the shit out of each other, and that's what they were doing in this match.
Yeah, all the strikes are so hard. Like you mentioned, the kicks, the chops, and the slaps. Yeah, these guys, like, you want to talk about strong style. Like, these guys were hitting the crap out of each other. They really didn't work outside the ring. There were a couple spots where they fell outside the ring, but they got right back in immediately. They weren't, like, throwing each other into guardrails or doing high spots outside. A lot of the stuff was in the middle, in the ring. They're exchanging holds, putting each other in holds, a lot of grappling, suplexes, submission attempts, very little high flying. There was a couple top rope spots, but not many.
Towards now the early part of this, like I mentioned, was extremely shoot influenced. And then I would say like that was probably the first third. The second third kind of moved more into like a lot more conventional wrestling submission holds based type of deal. Mm-hmm. And then the last third kind of turns into an indie wrestling fest where they start running the ropes, doing high spots. I'm not saying jumping off the top rope, but like, your high spots, jump over and run over and, lots of big, throws and stuff like that, suplexes. And so it's kind of like a match in 3 acts, basically, is the way I saw it.
Yeah.
And they weren't really going for the finish until like that final third act, basically.
Right. Yeah. And so towards the end there, Rocky hits a big leg lariat and he's just throwing several strikes and he hits a fisherman suplex for a near fall. Brian kicks out and transitions into cattle mutilation, his old ROH finish there. And then he transitions into a double chain wing pin for a near fall. Both men get up on their feet, and they're exchanging heavy strikes. Brian gets Rocky on the top rope. Rocky fights out, hits a missile drop kick, then a flying armbar, but then Brian escapes and hits a Regalplex and gets the win here.
Yeah, I liked the way he hit the Regalplex. It kind of just came from out of nowhere. And, Rocky was like going for that flying armbar on multiple occasions throughout the match. And it seemed like that's what he was trying to win with. And I guess what I just liked about it was that this really seemed like a very competitive, action-filled match where like it kind the chains of, and swings of momentum just kind of went back and forth the whole time. Mm-hmm. There weren't really too many control spots or segments. Like these guys were just kind of equal the whole entire time. And then Brian escaped and hit him with the Regalplex and just kind of caught him. He was the better man that night.
Right, it wasn't this kind of big, like drawn out, like super finisher or anything. It was like literally, I caught you with the suplex that's into a pin, and I got you.
Yeah. Now, I thought the match was really good. I wouldn't go super high on it because A, the match was a little short, and B, there wasn't much story to it. I mean, the action was good and it was well worked, but it was kind of like I just mentioned. It was just kind of like an athletic competition between two guys. There wasn't a lot of drama there.
Yeah.
This sort of reminded me like a really good opener.
Yeah.
Like this could have opened almost any big show, but it didn't have the feel of a main event whatsoever.
Yeah, I went about 3.5 stars on here. Like I thought the work was really good. I think it's a fair rating for the amount of time, like you mentioned, the atmosphere and just the style of match it was, and just what the match was overall.
Yeah, I would generally agree with that. I think the main reason I wanted us to kind of review this was A, it's a rare match. A lot of people don't know about it. And I think it was a really cool thing to kind of take a look into the background of, an early match for Bryan Danielson and Rocky Romero, especially the fact that it was like an Inoki Dojo type of thing. And, we kind of wanted to, the whole idea of this project was to cover every Best of the Super Juniors tournament final, and this is a tournament final.
Right, and yeah, it plays right into the Japanese Best of Super Junior final in 2004.
Yeah. Now, I know you don't have notes on this, but I actually do. So, really, really good match. After the tournament, Bryan Danielson would go on to compete in the 2004 Best of the Super Juniors tournament in Japan. He would finish second in his block, which is Block A, just behind Jushin Thunder Liger. He'd go into the playoffs and be eliminated in the semifinals by Koji Kanemoto. So he had a real good showing, got a lot of points, didn't make it. The Best of the American Super Juniors tournament would return a year later, but not the reason we didn't cover it because it was actually held by Ring of Honor in 2005 in New Jersey. That tournament would feature Bryan Danielson, Brian Kendrick, Matt Sydal, Alex Shelley, James Gibson, Roderick Strong, Rocky Romero as Black Tiger 4, and Dragon Soldier B, which was Kendo Kashin. Keep in mind, this is the best of the American Super Juniors. Rocky would go on to advance to the finals as Black Tiger 4 and would lose in the finals to Dragon Soldier B. Kendo Kashin won the best of the American Super Juniors in 2005. And not only was it a match that I've heard was not very good, but number two, he would not compete in the 2005 Best of the Super Juniors as either himself or as Dragon Soldier B. So kind of, there was a lot of negative feedback for Ring of Honor for having a New Japan guy win the tournament. It made no sense.
Yeah, kind of killed the gimmick there.
The Inoki Dojo would become an affiliate of NWA Pro eventually, so they kind of became disassociated with New Japan. And in 2006, they held two tournaments where the winner of each tournament would get an entry into the Best Super Juniors tournament in Japan. On May 14th, they presented the Super Lucha tournament, which would feature Alex Kozlov, Phoenix Star, Chilongo, Shamu Jr., to name a few. And it would be run. It was won by the Durango Kid, who performed under the name Fuego. And that event reportedly drew 10 fans. 10 fans. And on May 19th, NWA Pro hosted the final Best of the American Super Juniors tournament in El Monte. Rocky Romero, as Black Tiger 4, would go on to win that tournament. It also featured Alex Kozlov, TJ Perkins as Cobra 2, Jimmy Rave, Joey Ryan, Roderick Strong, Scorpio Sky, and Carl Anderson. So Rocky Romero in all three Best of the Super Junior American finals.
Nice. So that takes us to Best Super Juniors Final 2004 in Japan. This year we have a 16-man tournament, 2 blocks being held from May 22nd to June 13th. It featured a unique structure from other years where the top scorer of each block would advance to the semifinals, while the second and third place finishers in each block would start in the quarterfinals. Jushin Thunder Liger, after finishing first in the A block, was forced to withdraw the tournament due to a spinal injury, leaving American Dragon to go to the semifinals instead. Josh, you want to run down the participants in this year's tournament?
Yep, so in Block A, we had Jushin Thunder Liger, American Dragon, Masahito Kakihara, Koji Kanemoto, El Samurai, Big Boss Magma, Wataru Inui, and Ryosuke Taguchi. And on the B block, we had Tiger Mask 4, Ultimo Dragon, Heat, otherwise known as Minoru Tanaka, Masayuki Naruse, Rocky Romero, Garuda, Katsuhiko Nakajima, and Curryman, otherwise known as Christopher Daniels.
Yeah, and then so for the quarterfinals, we had the second place winner in the B block, Ultimo Dragon, taking on the third place in the A block, Koji Kanemoto. Kanemoto wins there. Then also on the other side of the bracket, in the quarterfinals, we had Kakihara against Heat, and Heat wins there. Then we go to the semifinals, where we have the A block winner, number 1, American Dragon, going against Koji Kanemoto, and then the B block number 1, Tiger Mask 4, going against Heat. So Koji Kanemoto defeats American Dragon, Tiger Mask 4 defeats Heat, and that leads us to our finals, where we have Koji Kanemoto taking on Tiger Mask 4, June 13th, 2004, in Korakuen Hall. And obviously, we can kind of tell we're kind of in the dark days of New Japan. In the past Final Countdown episodes, a lot of our finals have been in bigger arenas, and now we're here in Korakuen Hall.
Yeah, and I think from now until, at least the entirety of this episode, every single final from here on out is going to be in Korakuen Hall, which is kind of surprising. I think they start towards the end of the decade to do better houses, but this one seemed to be like a really light house, even for a Korakuen Hall show.
Yeah. So give us the background on Tiger Mask 4.
So Tiger Mask 4. So, we get a lot of questions about Tiger Mask and Tiger Mask 4 just because of the mythos surrounding that character and kind of the confusion because there have been so many different Tiger Masks all throughout the years. But this Tiger Mask, which is the fourth Tiger Mask, his real name is Yoshihiro Yamazaki. He is the longest active wrestler to have competed with the persona of Tiger Mask. And he also was originally trained by the original Tiger Mask, Satoru Sayama. He's the only Tiger Mask to have gained the credentials and approval of being, named that character by Satoru Sayama. So, unlike the second or third Tiger Masks, he's actually endorsed. And he also traveled to Mexico to train in Lucha Libre, for the purpose of taking on this character's name. A lot of people kind of associate Yamazaki with his time in New Japan. We kind of affectionately call him Grumpy Tiger Mask now because he's in his older age. But he actually started with Michinoku Pro. He wrestled for them from like 1995 till around 2001. And while he was there, that's kind of where he, made his name, won most of it, did most of his like international traveling. And, by the time he comes to New Japan in like 2002, he's been a former British, junior heavyweight champion. He's won like the British Commonwealth title, UWA World Middleweight title, multiple time independent champion with Michinoku Pro. So, I mean, he's kind of a well-traveled and he's got a great reputation as being like one of the best, junior competitors out there. I think one of the big things about Yamazaki is that his version, whereas like when you watched Koji Kanemoto or Mizawa when they were Tiger Mask, they kind of put their own spin on it. And while Yamazaki has definitely kind of quote unquote put his own spin on it, he's the one guy who has gone back to the roots and tried his best to wrestle as much like Satoru Sayama as possible. So that's the one thing, is he's kind of a throwback in that sense.
Gotcha. So that takes us to the matchup here. So what do you think about Tiger Mask versus Koji Kanemoto?
Well, I was really excited for this because I was like, oh, you've got Tiger Mask 4 taking on Tiger Mask 3. And not only that, but you also have Koji Kanemoto, who has won this tournament several times, been featured in the finals multiple times. I mean, he's at this point, one of the top stalwarts in the division and one of the best active workers, as we've, discussed. And I am not as familiar with Tiger Mask's work from the time period. So I was like, I've heard the hype. And now I'm not going to base all my opinions on him on just these couple matches we watch here, but like I was very, very, very hyped going into this. And once I watched it, I was like, what?
Yeah.
As I think that this might literally be, in my opinion, the worst match of the project so far as finals go. I think this is the weakest final out of all of them.
Yeah, this was a pretty weak match. Like you mentioned, I've fallen in love with Koji Kanemoto during this project, and he's one of those guys.
If you love him, why don't you marry him?
He's one of these guys, he's been in the finals multiple times. You can tell why. He's a great wrestler and puts on some great performances. I'm like, all right, he's in here with Tiger Mask 4, just like you have heard great things about him. But yeah, this match did not click, and clearly we've seen Koji click with several other people in several other finals. So the uncommon denominator here is Tiger Mask. And with Tiger Mask, this whole match in general, there wasn't really much of a story, really, or much of a structure. And
they're just doing stuff.
Right. That's why, to me, Tiger Mask, he wrestles in this match like I'm playing WWE 2K or whatever wrestling game you play. Where if I'm playing a game, like I'm not trying to tell a story and have this great back and forth match. Like I'm trying to win, so I'm hitting like all my big moves, like Tiger Suplex, Dragon Suplex. I'm hitting all these big moves, just trying to win the match and get it over with. And that's kind of what was happening here.
That is literally my like exact thoughts. I was like, this guy is wrestling like, I I don't want to say a shoot because a shoot is like realistic and you can kind of see the intentions and the thought processes behind it. With this, I was like, he's just out here doing shit. Just doing moves.
All right.
And like, I don't know.
And which there's a point where like, doing moves, I'm like, okay, I can get with that a little bit, but I don't know.
None of it flowed together. Like it wasn't like sequences. He's just like, you know, you always hear like how the top wrestlers always talk about like, you want to have a reason for why you're doing this. What is the reason? And he's like, don't need no reason. Hold this kick.
Hold this tiger suplex.
Hold this tiger suplex. Fuck it. And you know, the other thing too is like Tiger Mask, like he's kind of eating Koji Kanemoto alive in this match.
Yes, dude. Yes, I had this.
And I was
almost
like,
the same feeling you had when like Ishii or when Moxley was beating Ishii's ass. That's the feeling I almost had like watching this match. I was like,
what the fuck? I was like, why is Koji Kanemoto getting his ass kicked right now?
I was like, when is Kanemoto gonna come back? And this match was laid out pretty much for Tiger Mask to like. I'm guessing at this time they're trying to push Tiger Mask.
I think they were trying to push him as a big star
and get him over. And so they just had his like bulldoze Koji Kanemoto, and I'm just like, clearly Koji's the better worker here and the better wrestler, and he's just getting dominated by this guy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to criticize the booking because I don't know the context or the situations at the time and all that, but the layout of the match is very questionable because, I mean, if he fucked him up and it was, like, really impressive, that's one thing. So I'd be like, all right, cool. But he fucked him up and it wasn't impressive. The one thing I liked in this match, it was like literally the only thing, and you actually sent a video of it before I watched the match, was towards the end of the match, he locks Kanemoto in a crossface chicken wing and then turns the crossface chicken wing into a German suplex. He drops him on his head. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then, and then he kicks him and hits him with a tiger suplex and pins him. And I'm like, oh, so it's like that. And it was like 11 minutes. It was like, shorter than the Kendo Kashin match from 1999. I was like, wow, this guy really just pinned Koji like that.
Yeah, he bulldozed him. It's probably one of the shortest finals that we've watched so far. And yeah, just kind of, I don't know, like I popped huge for the crossface chicken wing suplex. I thought that was an awesome spot. But yeah, then, like you mentioned, just a kick, tiger suplex, and that was it. And overall, I went 3.5 on this match.
Oh, nope, no way.
What'd you go?
I go 3 stars.
Okay, and for me, I still think 3.5 is disappointing for this match. It's supposed to be a big final of a tournament. You got a guy like Koji Kanemoto. You have Tiger Mask 4. It's supposed to be extending the legacy of Tiger Mask, and they should have had a better match here.
Yeah, I mean, these tournaments are very grueling and arduous for the competitors that are part of it. It's a lot of time, a lot of sacrifice, and you always kind of hope that the end result will be something that is meaningful long-term for the business and the people involved. And I don't know. It just does seem like it kind of sucks. I don't want to say disrespectful because that might be too harsh, but it feels like a waste, and it kind of sucks to think that the match was such a letdown after a long tournament. And I don't know how good the tournament was or was not, but it kind of sucks.
Yeah, this match definitely on the bottom end of the finals we've watched so far. So afterwards,
hold up, I gotta ask you something.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at your notes here. Dave Meltzer doesn't have any notes on any of these Super Junior tournaments until 2009.
Right, like the observers just aren't on the website. Like if you go to the archive, like there's nothing in 04, nothing in 05, 06. Like
I was like, this man just quit on the company around this time.
Like I'm sure he did them, just for whatever reason those years are not uploaded on the website for whatever reason.
Okay, gotcha. I was like, yo, this man did not care anymore.
He was tired of writing this year's.
That's why they call it the Dark Ages. Like everyone's always wondering why is it called the Dark Ages? Because Dave stopped talking about them during that time. But yeah.
So afterwards here, Tiger Mask wins the tournament, and he would go on to unsuccessfully challenge Heat for the title on July 19th, though he would defeat him eventually in a rematch on January 4th in the Tokyo Dome 2005.
Nice. So the next year is Best of the Super Juniors Final 2005. We do not currently have access to the footage for 2005 or 2008. But we put out a couple posts this past week as a last-ditch attempt effort to try and locate, see if anyone out there on the interweb can help us. And without saying too much, we have a very promising lead that will probably in the near future produce those two finals for us.
Yeah, so hopefully that person will return the email and get in contact, and we can get those matches.
Well, I was told even if we don't hear back from this contact, the individual that kind of connected us, all we have to do is let them know, and they can help us out still, probably.
All right. So yeah, we'll work on that.
So one way or another, ladies and gentlemen, it might not be here in the next couple weeks. It might even take a little while, but we will be getting access to those two matches, and when we do, we will compile them and put them into the final product for the Final Countdown. So we will not be talking about 2005 or 2008 this week.
Yep. So we're going to do a little time travel here, skip a year, and go to 2006.
The good news, we have footage for the rest of this tournament. So that's freaking awesome.
Yep. Literally every single year.
Everything.
We have all the footage besides 05 and 08. So
awesome. So let's talk about 2006.
Yeah. So 2006, we have a 14-man block this year. Tournament was held from May 27th to June 18th. Young boy, you want to run down the tournament participants?
Yep. So in the A block, we had Jushin Thunder Liger, Minoru Tanaka, who's just going as Minoru now, El Samurai, Ryosuke Taguchi, Jado, Sangre Azteca, and Fuego. And in the B block, we had Wataru Inui, Tiger Mask 4, Koji Kanemoto, Gato, Black Tiger 4, Hiroki Goto, and Gentaro.
And so this year we kind of returned to the format where it's only A1, A2, B1, and B2 that are in the semifinals, unlike last year, on 2004, where they had the third place guy in there as well. So in the semifinals, we had the A1 being Jushin Thunder Liger going against the B2 Tiger Mask 4, and then the B1 was Wataru Inui taking on Minoru Tanaka as A2, and so Minoru defeats Wataru, and Tiger Mask defeats Liger, which gives us our final on June 18th, 2006, Minoru versus Tiger Mask in Korakuen Hall.
Now, what I really loved was the version that we watched was like a commercial. I don't know exactly what version it was, but it had a hype video to start off, and I don't think we've gotten too many hype videos for most of these matches, so this one did a really good job. It starts off showcasing Minoru Tanaka, and it shows the 3 different times that he's been in the Best of the Super Junior Finals, and then in the next scene it shows how he has lost every single finals match that he's been involved in. I think he lost to Kendo Kashin, Koji Kanemoto, and Liger. Yeah. So it basically shows how he's made it to the top of this tournament 3 times and failed every single time. On the reverse end of things, you have Tiger Mask 4, and although we're not talking about the 2005 version of this contest this week, he did go into the finals against Gato, and he did defeat Gato, so he's the only person ever in the history of New Japan Pro Wrestling to win the Best of Super Juniors tournament back-to-back 2 years in a row. And so he's made it to the finals for a 3rd year in a row. He's the 2-time defending champion, and he's looking to make it a 3rd victory in a row. So you kind of have the reverse there. The other thing they kind of showed in the video was after he had these 3 losses, how he turned away from the Minoru Tanaka character and is now just Minoru, because he is now joined up with CTU. Different look, different attitude, different gear, and he is now a bad boy, along with Liger and Koji Kanemoto and all those guys.
Yes, the Controlled Terrorism Unit. That is the Black Liger outfit for you guys that might not know or not familiar with CTU Liger.
And yeah, so that kind of sets the stage and the story behind, what's going on with these two guys.
Yeah, and so even though Minoru might be the bad boy or the heel here, the crowd was firmly behind him here.
Completely.
Yeah, Cork and Hall, big pop for when he came out, and throughout the match they were chanting for Minoru, and it just kind of showed you like the whole Tiger Mask 4 thing wasn't quite popping off maybe the way they were hoping or wanting to, and he just wasn't at the level of a guy like Minoru, who we've seen this tournament in the past and had some great performances.
I mean, maybe it was. We don't know. I mean, it's all contextual.
Right.
Corkin's always a really smarky crowd, always has been. Tokyo audience is different, so we don't know for sure. The other thing is, crowds love to see a first-time, like, champion or a tournament winner. And so I think Minoru Tanaka's not only does he kind of have a bad boy character, which always resonates, a lot of times with fans, you try to get a guy over his heel, but he's so cool that the fans like him. I think there might have been that aspect, but also he's sympathetic. You've got Tiger Mask, who won this shit 2 years in a row. And then you got the guy who's lost it 3 times in the past. I mean, you tell me who you're supposed to vote for,
Right.
So, I mean, I think he had a lot going for him. Plus, if I do recall correctly, I mean, I wasn't watching it extensively at the time, but Minoru Tanaka always seemed to be one of the most popular junior stars of the time.
Yeah, and so what did you think about this match overall?
Overall, I thought that this match, at first, I thought it really sucked. And I mean, really sucked. Worse than the one that we just reviewed. The first 2/3 of the match, I think, are some of the shittiest finals wrestling that we've seen. That's just my personal opinion. And for that entire time, it is literally Tiger Mask just mauling Minoru Tanaka. And not in any, like, again, same thing that we talked about last time. Not in any discernible or recognizable or orderly way. It's just him doing stuff. He's just doing shit.
Well, there was a little bit more of a story in this match because Minoru came
enlighten me, because I was lost the whole time.
So Minoru comes in the match with a taped up shoulder.
Oh, that's right. Well, his arm was hurt.
Right. So Tiger Mask is working over the arm in the beginning of the match. He's getting a Fujiwara arm bar, cross arm bar. There was one point where Minoru had to bite his leg to get out of an arm bar. That's desperation.
I'll say this. I think that I didn't really catch on to the fact that his arm was so hurt until the latter half of the match. And you're right. There was arm work. But I will say this also. If that was the story, then why didn't he just stick to it? Because he was doing a bunch of other shit that he didn't need to be doing if that's the story. Like, he did a lot of weird stuff in that first 2/3 that I was like, I was looking at the ratings and I saw Dave Meltzer gave this match 4.5, and I was like, what the Dave, come on, bro. And then suddenly when Minoru Tanaka starts getting his comeback, the match completely flips on its head, and it's one of the best finals closing stretches that we've reviewed the entire time, to the point where it actually does, to a degree, redeem the match. And I was like, I'm not someone who's always like, oh, I could have cut 5 minutes off that or 10 minutes. I mean, the match is the match. I always let it be. But I could have literally done without that first 2/3. I didn't think it was a strong base at all. But the final, like, third of the match is so freaking good with the arm work on the shoulder and the heat that, like, Minoru Tanaka throws in. It is incredible. But keep in mind, Minoru Tanaka gets most of the cool offense in this second, like, in the last third of the match. Like, he's awesome. I kind of think Tiger Mask sucked back then.
Yeah, I mean, this ending, the last half of the match, I think, once Minoru kind of made the comeback was really good. And, you mentioned he did a lot of cool stuff. There was one point where he did a super fisherman buster off the top there and hitting a release regal plex, doing a tiger suplex. He was doing a lot of, like, cool moves there.
Who?
Minoru.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what happened, but I just know, like, Tiger Tiger Mask had been just like fucking him up, and then suddenly he just like stands up and he's like, no more of that, and he starts hitting with open palm strikes, and I'm like, oh shit. And that's when the match turns for me.
Yeah. And so the closing stretch here. So Tiger Mask gets Minoru on top, trying to hit a Super Tiger suplex. He hits it for near fall. He attempts a crossface chicken wing, but Minoru reverses to a flying armbar, transitions to a leg cradle for a near fall. Then Minoru hits a STO, followed up with a Death Valley driver. He goes for a leg kick. Tiger Mask gets a waist lock. There's a waist lock exchange. Tiger gets a victory roll for a near fall, then a backslide for a near fall. They exchange kicks. Minoru hits a fisherman for a near fall, kicks him to the head, flying armbar. Tiger Mask submits, and Minoru wins.
Yeah, and what was cool about this, the last portion of the match was like, I guess what I didn't like about Tiger Mask being on top was that like it wasn't just that he was on top, but it was very slow, very plotting, and very like single base simple. It'd just be like he'd kick the guy, he'd elbow them, drop kick, suplex, just like very basic maneuvers, and there wasn't much action. But then when they cut into this final part where like these guys are trading holds and they're doing high flying stuff, all of a sudden I can see like, oh, Tiger Mask could have been doing this the whole time. Like he could have been wrestling at top level. Like he is good enough to do it. He just was choosing. I don't know. The first part of the match reminded me of like a Triple H match circa 2003. You know, it's very, very plotting, very, I don't know, cerebral, I guess is the word. But I liked the story at the end because Minoru, like you mentioned, his arm is hurt and Tiger Mask is trying to put him in chicken wings and arm bars and get him to submit. And he's having to get past that and fight and use his strikes. And then he keeps going for jumping arm bars on Tiger Mask. And he's got to complete the arm bar, but also get enough leverage he only has one working arm to actually pull off that submission. So
Right.
It's pretty cool. And the crowd, every time he does it, the crowd really, really gets behind him. He hit a freaking sick STO on Tiger Mask at one point.
Yeah, that was towards that ending stretch. It was a sick STO. He followed it up with a Death Valley driver, dropped Tiger right on his head with that DVD. There was a cool move from Tiger before that ending sequence where Minoru bounced off the ropes and Tiger caught him like in a tilt-a-whirl, but it turned into a tombstone pile driver.
Yeah, he did. And that's another thing. When I saw him doing stuff like that, I'm like, oh, so you was just fucking off. You could have been doing this cool shit the whole time. Kind of made me mad. It's funny because the way that you guys, the first time I asked you and Rich to review El Samurai and Koji Kanemoto, this is kind of how you guys talked about it. You were like, oh, it's slow in the beginning, but it picked up towards the end. And I was like, nah, all of it was great. But in this instance, I would literally say, in my opinion, I think the beginning of it is unnecessarily slow, but the second half of it is really great, like really, really great. I would still not, I don't know if I can go, I'd probably still go 4, maybe 3 3/4, maybe 4. I think you're a little higher on that than me, huh?
Yeah, so I went 4 1/4 on it. I don't know, the closing stretch I thought was really great. The crowd, throughout the whole match, the crowd was really into this match. The crowd bought into Minoru's injury and really wanted him to fire back and come back and get the win here. I don't know. This match, I don't know. Overall, I thought it just picked up really that second half.
Nice. And so, any final thoughts in the aftermath?
Oh, one more thing to bash Tiger Mask for.
Nice. You're going to bash him too. I love it.
His 619 is horrible.
Oh, yeah.
There were several 619 attempts in this match, and it's like the slowest 619 I've ever seen in my life.
I forget what Tiger Mask calls that move, because I think he calls it something else. But yeah, it was not very good.
Yeah, the commentators called it 619.
Did they?
Yeah, they were like, 619 up!
Well, yeah, I guess by that point it was like over as the 619, huh?
Yeah. Because, this is 06, and Ray had been in WWE for like 4 years now. Yeah,
and I'm getting ready to graduate high school.
So after this win here from Minoru, he finally wins Best of Super Juniors, and he goes on to defeat Koji Kanemoto for the title in December 2006. And this tournament marked the first time that neither block winner made it to the finals.
I remember what he calls it. It's the tiger feint kick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I just want to remember that. What were you saying about people not going to the finals?
So this is the first tournament that neither block winner made it to the finals.
Oh, yeah. In 2007?
This is 06.
Oh, 06? My bad.
Yeah, so,
okay.
Yeah, because Liger was the A1, Wataru Inui was the B1, and both of those guys got defeated in the semifinals, and you had the A2 and B2, which was Tiger Mask and Minoru here.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I guess it all depends on the philosophy of the booker, because I don't think Gato would ever really do this anymore.
Right, yeah, I hate this whole, let's put in the B2 and A2, A3, a B3. I'm like, these guys want to block for a reason. Like, I think it's pretty simple. You win a block, you go to the finals. It's so cut and dry. I think it makes it super convoluted when you're trying to add in these playoff matches. It's like, I won the block. Why do I need to win another match to get to the finals?
That is true, but then think about the reverse of it. When you're looking at the dates the way Gato does it, you can pretty much tell who's going to be in the finals of the tournaments most likely just by looking at the announced dates, because you're already seeing because they don't do a quote unquote playoff. You know who the top stars are of each block, generally speaking. So if you look at like the final two nights of A block and B block, you're like, oh, okay, that's the quote unquote playoff match for the block. You know what I mean? And so I think there are positives and negatives. I agree with what you're saying, but I also think that there's an element of surprise and maybe even a little bit more wiggle room for the booker to maybe do it this way.
Right.
What I love about the way they do it now is that it's undisputed. The guy that wins, and there's no if and or buts about it. Whereas with this, there's a little bit more, some guesswork with it. So I think there's positives and negatives, honestly.
Yeah. And once again, no observer notes available for this. So that takes us now to 2007 for another 14-man 2-block tournament, this time held from June 1st to June 17th. On June 7th, it was announced that Prince Devitt would be forced to withdraw from the tournament due to an injury, forfeiting all scheduled matches in the process. So, young boy, tell us all the participants in this year's tournament.
Yep. So in 2007, we had in the A block Prince Devitt, Yujiro, Taichi Ishikari, Jushin Thunder Liger, Tiger Mask 4, Milano Collection AT, and Wataru Inui. In the B block, we had Tetsuya Naito, El Samurai, BB Hulk, Gato, Kochi Kanemoto, Minoru, and Ryozuki Taguchi. So, you're starting to see some more familiar names here.
Yeah. And once again, we're still have the A1, A2, B1, B2 format for the semifinals. So the A1, we had Wataru Inui taking on the B2, Minoru Tanaka. And then the B1 was Ryusuke Taguchi taking on the A2, Milano Collection AT, and which some of you guys might know, hear that name familiar. That's one of the current Japanese ring announcers, a guy who's a big mark for LIJ and Evil in Sonata. So he's A2 here. He defeats Taguchi. So we have a A1, A2 final here, a rematch of a block match that we would have saw early in the tournament with Wataru Inui taking on Milano Collection AT.
Yeah, this is an interesting collection of guys because you're starting to see not only some more modern names, but some names of guys that are kind of outsiders like BB Hulk. Yeah, that name right there is just kind of like guys like, oh, I didn't know he's in a Super Junior there. But yeah, it looks like on this day we had the A1 and the A2 winners kind of continuing on to face each other. So, again, interesting booking because you end up with two guys who already fought in the tournament ending up in the finals against each other.
Right, and like we talked about in the past, the one good thing about that, you could build a big rematch.
Mm-hmm.
So give us some background on Wataru Inui and Milano Collection AT.
So Inui he made his debut in New Japan Pro Wrestling in 1999, and he was kind of like one of the Sekigun, like face stable juniors for a long time. He was trained originally by Animal Hamaguchi, and made his way into the New Japan Pro Wrestling Dojo. There's not a lot of notable information about him through the early 2000s period. They do mention that when CTU kind of came around, that he was always kind of aligned with the Sekigun unit to kind of face off against them in that kind of war. But I think that the big deal with him was the fact that he was a mentor or a mentee to Koji Kanemoto. They did win the junior tag titles in 2005. And then he suffered a brief injury in 2007. And then eventually him and Koji Kanemoto, they dropped the IWGP junior tag team titles. So I think he was kind of seen as an underachieving loser to a certain extent. He was very tough, very strong. But that was kind of from what I understand of the time period, kind of his persona going into this tournament, basically.
Yeah, I know it's a name I definitely recognize that we've seen in earlier tournaments and usually at the lower end of the block that he's in. So definitely he's kind of, obviously matured, got some experience over time, and is now winning a block here.
Yeah, and then on the other end of things, we have Milano Collection AT, also known his birth name Akihito Sawafuji, and they always build him as being from Milan, Italy. Obviously, Milano Collection AT is not Italian. It's clearly Japanese. But he debuted in 2000 in the Toryumon promotion, which was the precursor to the Dragon Gate promotion. And that's kind of where he adopted the persona and the ring name of Milano Collection AT. The idea was that he was an Italian fashion aficionado / supermodel. So he'd wear lavish coats and trunks. And when he would come to the ring, he always had this invisible dog. So he'd have a leash that had no dog on it. But, he fought in the T2P class, which was one of the, that was I guess the second version of Toryumon, or Toryumon's second roster or whatever. But yeah, I mean, he kind of had been all over the place prior to coming to New Japan. He wrestled in T2P and Toryumon, wrestled for the NWA. He also did a little bit of stuff with WWE and Ring of Honor and East Coast Wrestling and TNA. He was in their World Cup back in 2008. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
So I mean, he kind of had been everywhere. And he would even he was even part of the Rise faction in New Japan Pro Wrestling when he joined them in full time in 2007. So he'd had a couple unsuccessful title challenges for the NWA junior title and the IWGP junior title, but this is kind of his first real serious push at this point in New Japan. Nice. So kind of an outsider.
So we're here June 17th, 2007. Milano Collection AT versus Wataru Inui, Korakuen Hall. What did you think about this matchup?
I liked it. I didn't think the match itself was great, but I thought that it was interesting. So, I mean, we had talked about how on the previous episode, how we kind of saw a period where for about 4 or 5 years, we saw a heavy influence of shoot style wrestling and the MMA craze and how that affected New Japan's working style. And then once we come into this episode with 2004, 2005, especially with Tiger Mask, it's Tiger Mask was a throwback. So it's he kind of threw it way back, to the 80s. And it was an overcorrection. But once we get to 2007, it's very interesting because you have Inui, who is very much similar to I don't know, in some regards, he's similar to Minoru Tanaka, Takaiwa, Koji Kanemoto. He kind of fits in with all those guys. But then you have Milano Collection AT, who's completely different from every competitor we've seen in the Super Junior tournament so far, or at least in the finals. I mean, I wouldn't say he was a high flyer by any means, although he could when he needed to. But what was interesting about him is he's a precursor to Sonata and Zack Sabre Jr. He seems like a guy that came out of like 2016, 2017 and went back in time to go wrestle, the failed juniors of New Japan for that time period. Like it's kind of cool, but really weird. Like he's doing like, moonsault, like jumping moonsaults off the like second rope, and he's tying like Inoki up in all these like, what's the hold that Sonata does?
The Paradise Lock.
Okay, so we always see Sonata do the Paradise Lock, and we always lament about how bad the Paradise Lock is and everything like that. But like we always talk about how Milano Collection AT is like the inventor of it. But I've never seen that much of Milano. I've seen a little bit of his TNA and ROH stuff and some Toryumon, but not enough to like really know very much about him. But in this match, he's using the Paradise Lock, but he uses it like 4 or 5 variations of it, and
Yes.
they're all better than what Sonata does.
Yeah, so Sonata just gets him in the hole, gets him in the middle of the ring, does the whole, get the crowd to cheer, and then he does a drop kick to the butt to let them go. So here, Milano, he gets the Paradise Lock, and he does like a Paradise Lock like sleeper thing. Like the guy's like locked in the Paradise Lock, and he has like a sleeper locked in too. And he lets go of that, and then he does a Paradise Lock, but he's almost like a sharpshooter kind of position. But the guy is stuck in the Paradise Lock, and he's pulling up on his legs.
Yeah.
And
The only thing I don't like about it, and it's the same complaint we have about the Paradise Lock today, is like, why would you ever let go if the guy's locked up? And in this case, it seemed like I knew he couldn't. Now, it was a little different because I knew he they never stated or showed that I knew he for sure couldn't get out. But like every time he had Inoki in like a submission hold where it was a Paradise Lock variant, he pretty much seemed like he couldn't get out.
Right.
So I was like, so why are you letting go? But maybe there's a kayfabe reason for it. I don't know. But I thought Milano was awesome. I thought Wataru was okay, and I thought the match was just fine. But Milano Collection AT was like an injection that this tournament needed as far as the finals go, because like this is the first like truly really impressive performance I've seen in a long time since doing this project.
Yeah, Milano was the clear standout here in this match, and like you mentioned, like just the moves he's doing. This guy is doing a lot of cool submissions. He does a super RKO at one point.
Oh yeah, he did the ace cutter off the second rope, and it was awesome. I was like, all right, all Japan 90s.
And he's doing lion salt. He's doing corkscrew lion salts. He's doing a lot of cool strikes. So yeah, Milano, like you mentioned, a breath of fresh air here towards these latter 2000s tournaments, and the real kind of standout here. And Wataru was fine.
Wataru was serviceable. He's doing lariats, big kicks, German suplexes, and that all sounds fine and good because those are things we like. But like, there's a way to do it to where like it's meaningful and impactful, and it wasn't really that. Like he was kind of there. To tell you the truth, I don't even know. I'm not even really sure what the story of this match was because again, this match was kind of a little bit all over the place. To me, the story of the match was Milano Collection AT fucking rules.
Yeah.
That's what the story of the match was to me. Also, he hit like the first super kick that I think we've seen in the entire like the whole time we've been doing this since like '88.
He had like 3 super kicks.
Yeah, and they were clean, and I was like, oh shit.
He also hit a sick kick at one point, a Roddy Strong move.
He hit 2 of those actually.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, so like you mentioned, this guy
they were awesome.
This guy's coming from the future with all these cool like indie moves, and
he threw an arm breaker. He did a flying arm breaker off the second rope, and then hit him with a regal plex, like And Wataru's out here. He's like, I'm gonna hit you with a rolling arm bar. It's like, dog, we're past that. It's 2007. Like,
step your game up.
Yeah, and then at one point, I noticed we haven't been seeing spears, and suddenly in this match there's a spear. That was the 2 moves. I was like, there's a super kick and a spear, and I was like, we haven't seen those at all till now. Well, that's very interesting.
Yeah, but it looks like one of Wataru's like big moves was a spear. He hit it once and then tried it again later on in the match that Milano dodged.
Now, one thing I noticed, Wataru Inui's finisher, I believe, because I know it's how he won the 2008 finals, is like this, it's, I don't know how to describe it. You probably saw the move. It's like where he locks the back of his leg behind the person's neck, so like kind of puts him in a full Nelson, and then he yanks on the arm, And Milano Collection AT actually did that move earlier in the match. So, like, he stole Inouye's finisher as, like, a sign of disrespect. And then towards the end of the match, he got Milano Collection AT in the move, and everyone was freaking out. And I was like, that move sucks. Well, it could be good, but, like, the way he's pulling on their arm, he's literally pulling it in a way to, like, where there's no tension at all. Like, it doesn't look like anything. And I'm like, eh. But, yeah, at the end of the match, Milano dodged a spear, hit a super kick. Wataru kicked out at one and then hit a flying forearm. And then he goes for a cover. Milano kicks out at one. So, like, it's like fighting spirit from both guys. And then Milano hits another super kick and a twisting lion salt for a near fall. And then he hits him with the Regal Plex. And then that's it. 1, 2, 3. And I was like, oh, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah. And Milano's Regal Plex is a little bit different. Like, he had, it was almost like a pump handle Regal Plex. He had the arm, like, trapped in Wataru's arm trapped in with, like, his lock there. So it's kind of weird, but I liked it.
He did a lot of variants where people's arms or legs were locked, and I noticed that too. I thought that was cool. I got to see – this makes me want to watch more like Toryumon and see more of Milano Collection AT from his prime, because I was like, yeah, he fucking rules. Like,
yeah, he was awesome. So, yeah, Milano wins here. Overall, I went 3.75 on this match.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't love the match. I wouldn't even give it a high recommend, but 3.75 is probably fine. But I really like Milano Collection AT.
Yeah, Milano was the star of the show here. And so he would go on to become the first wrestler since Koshinaka to win the tournament on his first try, but he would fail to capture the Junior Heavyweight Championship.
That breaks my heart. So let's go to the final match that we'll be reviewing for this episode. It is the Best of the Super Juniors Finals 2009.
Yes, so 2009, we have another 14-man block here. Tournaments being held from May 30th to June 14th. Young boy, run down the participants here.
So we had Black Tiger 5. That's Tomohiro Ishii. No, I'm just playing. It's not. I think it's Ishizawa, I think is his name. I forget who it was. We had Black Tiger 5, Tiger Mask 4, Milano Collection AT, Jado, Akira, Atsushi Aoki, and Prince Devitt, rounding out the A block. And in B block, we have Yamato, Taichi, Tsuyoshi Kikuchi, Ryozuki Taguchi, Jushin Thunder Liger, Kota Ibushi, and Koji Kanemoto. It also is worth mentioning that the 2008 finals were won by Inoue.
Gotcha. So he eventually got his big win there.
Yeah. I don't remember who he wrestled in the 2008 Super Junior Finals, but he wins that one.
So here, once again, 2009, we're still using the A1 versus B2, B1 versus A2 semifinals format. So the winner of the A block was Prince Devitt, so he's taking on the runner-up of the B block, Kota Ibushi. Then the winner of the B block was Koji Kanemoto. He's taking on the runner-up of the A block, Atsushi Aoki. And so
Koji Kanemoto lost in the finals of 2008 to Wataru Inoue.
Gotcha.
Has anyone ever been in more Super Junior finals than Koji Kanemoto?
I think he's probably the most.
Like, this guy's been in so many Super Junior finals.
And it's another final for him right here because he defeats Aoki in the semifinals, and then Devitt defeats Kota Ibushi. So our finals, we got the A1 and the B1 winners here. So Prince Devitt is taking on...
Look at this. Koji Kanemoto beat Aoki in 6 minutes and 27 seconds by stoppage. So I don't even know what that means exactly, what he hit him with, but yeah. And that's the same Atsushi Aoki that passed away this past year from All Japan.
Gotcha. So yeah, so we get to the finals here of Prince Devitt versus Koji Kanemoto, June 14th, 2009 in Korakuen Hall. So young boy, give us the background on Prince Devitt.
Yeah, so Prince Devitt is a name that most of you listening should be pretty familiar with. If you're not familiar with that, you might know him as Fergal Devitt, which is his real name. Also, he's wrestling under the name now as Finn Balor. He also wrestled for a brief time as Pegasus Kid 2. But yeah, I mean, the deal with him, Prince Devitt kind of made his early career on the UK scene. Like in the early 2000s, he at the age of 18, and he made his mark on the UK, won multiple major titles that were over there, and he was eventually invited to wrestle for the New Japan Inoki Dojo in California. So around 2005, he made his way out there and started training with those guys, and Devitt was kind of one of these guys that kind of just traveled. He did tours in the United States, tours in the UK, and kind of just he's one of the first real indie darlings that we like to talk about that kind of made his mark before coming to New Japan. So he was sort of the first guy to come to the dojo. And he'd already had an extensive career outside of New Japan before he actually came to New Japan in early 2006. That's when he joined the dojo, started training in the Japanese style of professional wrestling. And in 2006, in March is when he joined. In April, he made his debut against El Samurai using his ring name, Prince Devitt. And, from that point forward, he kind of just started taking the company by storm. He was a member of the Control Terrorism Unit. And yeah, that's the background on Prince Devitt.
Nice. So what did you think about this final match here between Devitt and Koji Kanemoto?
One last thing. So by 2009, when 2009 came around, he had recently, in July, he had just started his partnership with Rizuki Taguchi as Apollo 55. Now, this is taking place, in June of 2009?
Yes.
So I don't think that they've formed the tag team just yet, but I did notice that he's seconded by Taguchi. So there must have been some sort of friendship or relationship even before, Apollo Go-Go started.
Right.
I think this match is very interesting because by the time we get to 2009, we've got Koji Kanemoto, who's a former two-time winner of the tournament, multiple-time IWGP champion, and multiple-time, competitor of Super Junior Finals. There's probably no one else who has as much experience in the finals as he does. So then you have Prince Devitt, first time he's ever made it to the finals of the tournament, and he's a much younger, less experienced competitor. And their entire, backgrounds and sort of style of wrestling are just in stark contrast to one another. Prince Devitt kind of comes off to me as being the young, hot babyface, if you will, who's doing a lot of what we would consider indie moves in today's, day and age. A lot it's very modern indie influenced wrestling, whereas Koji Kanemoto is still doing the same stuff he did in 1997, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But it's completely, and actually one thing I did notice, it's nice. Koji for a few years there when we were watching him kind of reverted to the Inokism stuff.
Yeah.
And it kind of sucked. But you have an older version of him here who's he's more aged, he's a little more wily, he's the older veteran going into this match.
Right. He's 42 at this point.
Yeah, and you can see it on his face. He looks older, he looks different, but this is a match about strength, the strength and speed of a young lion, an upstart, someone who looks like he's ready to take over the world. And then you've got, the age, wisdom, and experience of Koji Kanemoto. And what I loved about this match, and what seemed to really be the story, is that, head to head, Prince Devitt's way too much for him. But every time Devitt, tries something really, really big, Koji's kind of scouted it, and he just moves out of the fucking way of some really. there are two really big dives in the middle of this match where freaking Devitt tries to go for like tope conhilos and tope planchas, and it's twice, and both times like Kanemoto just walks out of the way, and freaking Devitt like eats crap real bad, and they like both of those dives like changed the entire trajectory of the match.
Yeah, so the first one, he has a tope conhilo. He like wipes out a young boy and bangs his knee on the railing.
Did you notice who that young lion was?
No, I didn't get a good look at his face.
Oh, it's Okada.
Oh,
yeah. When he's walking out, if you're watching the tape, he walks out with Okada as his young lion, and then he lands on Okada and the guardrail.
Right. So he's selling the knee.
Well, the funny thing is not only that, but like he's selling the knee, but like Okada's selling it like it's death. But then they go into like a count out where they're like doing the 20 count, and by 14, like 13 or 14. You look up, and somehow Okada has miraculously recovered.
And Devitt's still out selling.
And Devitt's still out.
Yeah, Devitt gets back in at 19. So then following that, eventually Devitt goes for another tope conhilo. But this time, so like Koji moves out the way, but for whatever reason for me, I feel like he wasn't supposed to move out the way. Like
You think so? But
I think he was supposed to catch Devitt, but he like kind of missed.
Because Devitt like gave him all his weight.
And it's like, because Koji did one of those cells where like I'm supposed to get hit, but I didn't, but I kind of go down a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I get back up. Like, so he did kind of one of those, but he also kind of moves. It was kind of weird. I'm like, I think he was supposed to catch him, but he just like, I don't know what happened, but he did not catch him. Devitt eats crap.
Have you ever seen the movie This Is the End?
No.
Okay, so it's like this movie, the world's ending, and it's like it's in the beginning of the movie, like this bottomless pit opens up, and this guy's like holding on for dear life, and someone who has like the high ground is above him, and he's like, "Give me your hand," and he's like, "You're not strong enough to catch me. I can't." And he's like, "I am. Give me your hand." And then he's like, "I'm gonna give you my weight, my full weight." And the guy's like, "All right." And then he grabs his hand and he slips and he drops into the bottomless pit.
Yeah, that's what happened to Devitt here.
For some reason, I was watching it, and like when I saw that happen, I think Devitt was like, beforehand, they were going over the match. He's like, "All right, but when I land, I'm gonna give you my weight, my full weight. You sure you're not too old to catch me?" And like, Coach is like, "I got this."
Yeah, and like he's up pretty quickly after that, which makes me think like he wasn't supposed to. Like Koji picks him up and he's immediately back on the attack. He clotheslines Koji over the guardrail and does that crazy foot stomp dive.
Yeah, so we haven't really seen dives into the audience yet. This is the first like Super Junior final where we're seeing dives to the audience. So 2009 is a big turning point in, you know, what I estimate going forward, like the 2010s, we're probably gonna see a lot more of what people have kind of become more accustomed to when it comes to like the junior style of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And this Devitt Marufuji is definitely like a turning of the tides, because you're seeing Devitt sort of introduce that. And but it's badass because you see the high flying of like Devitt where like it's spectacular and it's like devastating, but also high risk. Like he can get hurt so easily. And then on the flip end, you have Koji Kanemoto, who's still doing the same things he always did, and it just works.
Yeah.
Like, his there's one point where he hit him with like 2 or 3 moonsaults back to back.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's badass.
Yeah. Both of these guys had a lot of cool moves and back and forth here. There was a great spot by Devitt where Koji's going for the moonsault, but Devitt jumps up, hits a backstabber. So kind of like that, almost like sort of like an indie spot. Like that's a movie you would see like in the independent scene. So like Devitt kind of bringing that kind of like indie background, some cool spots to this match.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, what did you think was, the tale here and kind of the turning point for the final of this, the finale of this match?
So see, I think the turning point here. So towards the end, Devitt hits a Pele kick. Koji, he gets Koji on top, and he hits a superplex. And then he hits the fireman gut buster. Then Koji reverses to an ankle lock. Devitt reverses to a cradle. Both men exchange cradles. Koji ends back up with an ankle lock. He figure fours a leg with the ankle lock. Devitt gets to the ropes. Koji kicks the knee, so he's continuing to work on that injured knee. There's a slap exchange. Koji hits a Hurricane Rana, then kicks in the ankle lock, slaps in the ankle lock again. Another slap exchange, a punch exchange within the leg hole. Koji hits a big right, then a Falcon Arrow for a near fall. Devitt gets an inside cradle for a near fall. He hits the fireman gutbuster that he failed to hit earlier. He hits the ropes, but Koji catches him with a big V trigger, and this was a V trigger this time. Then a release.
That Koji V trigger was freaking awesome.
Yeah. Then a release suplex, release tiger suplex, a kick to the head, and then a leg trapped ankle lock, and Devitt taps out here, and Koji Kanemoto wins his third Best of Super Junior tournament.
Yeah, I loved the moment where they're in the leg lock, and Koji's pretty much got Devitt in the leg lock, but Devitt and him are slapping, and then they resort to punching each other. They're just both double punching each other in the face. So it's like a bunch of James Boyd spots, which is awesome. But it's kind of encapsulative, if that's even a word, but it kind of encapsulates what's happening here. So you kind of have the defiance of Devitt as being like, I'm the new, like, I'm that new, I'm here.
Right, that real.
I'm that real. But at the same time, like, Koji's still smart enough to, like, capitalize on the leg. And so while they're punching each other, going blow for blow, all the meanwhile, he's working on a leg hold, which is ultimately what was, Devitt's doing, was that big dive, him hurting his knee, the leg work, and then ultimately the submission. So, like, Devitt showed the world that, like, he's here, he's ready, and, like, he's the future. But Koji is still, like, for now, at least on that day, the guy. And the big thing with this was, like, well, that makes Koji Kanemoto only the second ever person to win the tournament 3 times in their career. That would just be him and Liger.
Yeah.
But then also, I think that this is Koji Kanemoto's final Super Junior Finals appearance.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I think it's his last appearance here.
So it's sort of like the end of an era here. Like, you kind of know that there's a big future for Devitt, but, like, this is kind of the last hurrah for Koji.
Yeah. And so he would go on. So, yeah, like you mentioned, second wrestler to win the tournament 3 times, and he would go on to lose the title match on July 20th against Tiger Mask 4.
Gotcha.
And we do have some observer notes here. Dave says, Koji Kanemoto captured the 20th annual Best of Super Junior tournament in New Japan on June 14th at Corkin Hall by beating Ireland's Prince Devitt, Fergal Devitt, in 1955 with an ankle lock submission. It was the 8th time Kanemoto won. Now 42 had reached the finals, winning previously in 98 and 2002, while losing the finals in 97, 99, 03, 04, and 08.
Holy crap.
Devitt had never been in the finals previously. The show drew a sellout 2005 fans. It was the usual parody-style tournament booking, with 8 of the 14 wrestlers still alive going into the final night of the round-robin tournament on June 13 in Kyoto. So, yeah. Dave didn't really give too much.
There's one thing I wanted to mention. So, even though I thought the match was pretty okay, like, it was good. It wasn't bad. It was good. It was entertaining, but I wouldn't call it great. The one deflating thing was I did not like the finish. I liked the setup of the finish and the story, but there weren't that many submission attempts to really draw you in, to tell you that Devitt was pretty much done for when it came to the leg submissions.
Yeah.
And when this leg hold got put in, the crowd was, like, desperate for Devitt to get to the ropes. And he was in it for a little while, and he was struggling, and they were mounting, like, the anticipation for him to break the hold. And, like, Corkin started really, really picking up, and they were, like, getting behind him. and then he tapped, and then that deflated it all, and it was like, oh, that was the wrong time to do it. It kind of reminded me of when Triple H tapped to John Cena at WrestleMania 22.
Yeah.
And he was right by the ropes, and it was kind of deflating. Like, that's kind of what this reminded me of. And I was like, oh, they picked the wrong – like, it was the right finish done the wrong way. And it did bring things down a little bit for me.
Yeah. So, yeah, I went 4 stars on that match. Overall, I thought it was a really good match. There, like I mentioned, that second Tope con Hilo, I think it might have been a botch. And there was a couple other spots.
There was quite a few botches in this match.
Yeah, there was a couple like miscommunications and a couple moves where it didn't come off as smoothly as they wanted. And maybe that's the inexperience of Devitt. Maybe that's just the language breakdown between both those guys. But overall, I still think it was a pretty solid final and one of the better ones we watched this week.
I'll say this. When this is all said and done, I didn't think I thought it was like 3 3/4. I couldn't give it 4 because I think 4 is truly great, and I thought that match was good, but not great. But the 90s were just this incredible time for the juniors in New Japan, and then we saw what happened. Like last week's episode, I liked quite a few of the matches, but I didn't love a lot of the performers. This week was a little different. Was like some of the matches, I liked some of the performances, but I didn't love the wrestlers. But what we did see was we saw a changing of the guard going into the latter half of the decade, where like guys like Milano Collection AT and Prince Devitt are kind of showing up, and it's the style is completely changing, and so it makes me very like I'm real excited to review like 2010 going forward. We've got how many more? 9.
Yeah, so about what two more weeks? Yeah.
Yeah, so these last 2 weeks are probably, and I mean, there's some bangers in there, like Taguchi and Ospreay, Kushida and Ricochet's in there, freaking Kyle O'Reilly and Kushida, which is one of my favorite finals ever. Obviously, last year's match, Ishimori and Hiromu.
Oh
so
my
I
gosh,
mean,
yeah,
I mean that last week, I don't know. It's gonna be tough because there's gonna be a lot of really, really, really good matches. So, yeah, I'm excited to see everything going forward. 2010 on.
Yeah, me too. So that
I'm glad we got this Inokiism shit past us.
Well, that wraps up the final countdown for this week. The only thing left for us to talk about is the recommended match of the week. So, first of all, what were your thoughts on watching Ultimo Dragon and Yuji Nagata?
It was good. It was really good. I liked it better than a lot of these Super Junior finals we reviewed. And it was a fraction of the time. It was like an 8-minute match. So, the whole story there is the idea that Sonny Uno was the, devious manager of Ultimo Dragon, and Dragon kind of left him behind and was starting to work with, the luchadors in New Japan or in WCW and everything of that nature. So he didn't like that shit. So he went out and got himself a ringer, and he brought in Yuji Nagata, and they had this match on the opener of Halloween Havoc 97. And what's weird is I remembered when you brought this up, I remembered the World War III match more. And I actually watched both matches, and I can tell you right now, the match at Halloween Havoc is much better, like way superior. But they did a lot of very innovative stuff for the time. Dragon has always had great kicks and great strikes, but I mean, he wasn't really laying into his shit. But Nagata, holy crap, Nagata was laying into his strikes so heavy. And I think part of it was that the story was that they were trying to tell was that Nagata was like a bigger, stronger, faster version of Dragon. And I think that might be one of the reasons why Dragon was working so soft, so as to accentuate Nagata's like impact. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but they had a really great wrestling match, back and forth, and then there was some stuff that Dragon did that I forgot that he used to do like that seated spinning Frankensteiner off the top rope.
Oh yeah, that was dope.
And I remember when you play WCW NWO Revenge, they have this really cool opening segment. And I always remember him doing that. And come to find out, it's Nagata that he does it too. So they're literally like, it's a reference to the Halloween Havoc 97 match when they did that. But ultimately, the commentary on the match was really good, especially Mike Tenay. Mike Tenay is bringing up like...
Mike Tenay was killing it.
He's doing really, really well, and he keeps bringing up like the J Crown and everything, the history of the guys in Japan and what this all means going forward. And it's really he kind of adds a lot of depth to the match where it's just kind of a pay-per-view opener. Like it's a throwaway match to someone like Bischoff, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But they gave him like 8-9 minutes, and they went out there and had a great match. And one thing that Mike Tenay did was he started mentioning that Dragon had bone spurs in his elbow that had been bothering him, and they played that up into the story of the match. And as the match continued on, like his arm got real bad, and then you realize like Nagata was targeting the arm the whole time. And at the end of the match, Nagata is Dragon is pretty much about to win, and he goes to put him in the Dragon sleeper. And Nagata slips out of it and drops him, puts him in the Nagata lock, and Ultimo like taps, and it's clean. Like he beat that man fucking clean as hell. And it was really great. I would have gone like almost it's 4-star action in an 8-minute match. I think 3 3/4 is probably a fair, accurate rating.
That's where I was at, like 3.75 on it. Yeah. But
it's an 8-minute match, so there's levels to this shit. It's like, it's a really great 8-minute match. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if they had more time to do a lot more, well, I'll take that back because I watched the match where they gave him a lot more time on the next pay-per-view, and it sucked. It was not nearly as good. In fact, in many instances, it was kind of the same match. But big recommendation. I like that match a lot.
All right. So what's the recommended match for this week?
Well, since it is Dantaku, and since we won't be getting Dantaku this year, I thought we would go back into the history books and give you the match that started it all. So my recommended match of the week is a dream match, champion versus champion, the immortal Hulk Hogan versus the Great Muta, the WWF champion versus the IWGP champion at the Fukuoka Dome in 1993.
Nice.
Very, very, very legendary match. Many people widely regard it as possibly Hulk Hogan's best match of all time.
Is that where we get the post-match promo of he wants to win the IWGP title and WWF title, the trinket?
Yeah, he tells him, he's like, I've won the WWF title 5 times. This is easy. I want the title. This is a stepping stone. It's a trinket on a tree. I want the IWGP title. There's also another promo he cut before the show, and he's like, in Japan, I want to fight all the best wrestlers. Inoki, Shono, everybody. He doesn't know anyone else's names.
All right, guys, so check out that recommended match of the week. Next week, we'll be back with all the latest news and another Final Countdown segment looking at the Best of Super Junior Finals. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. The show is at KI Strong Style. Also follow us at Social Suplex. You can follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, we are facebook.com/Social Suplex. You can join us in the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Wrestling Squared Circle. On Instagram, we are at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy. Josh is Keeping It Strong Style. You can check out our Discord channel, Social Suplex, and you can email me, Jeremy, at socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. On Sundays, we have One Issue Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. On Wednesdays, we have our podcast dedicated to independent wrestling, Grown Men Watch This Shit, hosted by Jeremy Tate and Chris Bryan. Fridays, we have Get in the Ring, with Danny and Mike. And then on Saturdays, we have All Things Elite with Floyd Johnson Jr., Amy, and Tiffany. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. We will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Fuck Inokiism.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.